All right, we're live. Aces Up, episode number 47. Huge guest tonight, one of the better high-stakes players around, Mr. Nelson Sousa. He's joining Mike Gamberg and Joey Brown, also joining with me. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. You're somebody who, like, when I first started this show, I was like, maybe someday I can get like Nelson on, like, at some point. And you know, a year later, here we are. So this is pretty cool. One of my favorite things is getting the NFFC guys on and just chopping it up, helping each other get a little bit better, I guess. And getting to know each other a little more. I guess, Nelson, we've talked a little bit in the past. I get you're from the Boston area originally.
Yeah, so I was born in Salem, and then my wife's from Malden. And,
right, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. She's from Malden, and then I grew up in Peabody, and I moved out here to New York. I don't know, it's been probably like 25 years now. I've been out in New York. So kind of half my life's been in Boston area and half in New York.
What are you, nice. Long Island, Nelson?
No, I'm upstate New York. I'm like 90 minutes north of the city, right up the Hudson River.
Gotcha.
Nice. All right, so why don't you, before we get started, why don't you tell the peeps where they can find your work one time, and then we'll hit that at the end of the show as well.
Yeah, I'm doing work over at FTN Fantasy. I handle all the high stakes subscriptions there. I got my rankings there, do some articles, got my fade list during the season, and then the biggest thing too is the Discord chat. That we have for high stakes subscribers. So it gives you 24/7 access to me. So you can, you know, something's on your mind, you're getting ready for a big draft, you can shoot questions all day long, and I try to answer them in a timely manner.
Awesome.
Yeah, Nelson does a great job. I've been there, I found 3 years ago. And I really found it because also they have a good product with the DFS. Kenny for hockey,
Vlad.
They have
Vlad for baseball.
Vlad for high stakes baseball is great. I mean, I'd highly recommend. Also, they got football guys. I guess Bickle, he's a Philly guy. He's pretty good, and golf too as well. The DFS product's very good, and I'm sure the betting guys are pretty good too. I don't use it, even though I pay for it, but it's not my thing. But product's real good. I got Joey in this year, Nelson. Nelson was surprised. He said, "I don't think Joey paid for content." I said, "Joey, you gotta get it. It's a must."
I thought Joey didn't like me anymore. That's why.
Yeah,
no, I couldn't afford it.
He just couldn't find you. I found you because of Kenny. I was using him over at Elite.
Here's the thing, Nelson. When we play against, like, we've gone against each other for so many years now, and you observe the way people, like, I told my wife I was going to tell this story. My first draft, I think, in the NFFC, you were in it, and it was like a complete. I forget what year, maybe 2016 or 2014 is in that range. You completely dominated it from the first second that the draft clock started until you won the league, and just what you did in the waiver wire, how you were outbidding people, and I just pay attention. I paid it like after a couple of weeks. I was like, I got to pay attention to what this guy's doing because he knows what he's doing. And you're somebody that I paid attention. You went on the list with Billy Wasowski and there's a few guys that I really learned a lot from just by observing how you guys manage your teams in season, and how you work, what you did in the draft rooms, and the type of builds you guys come up with. So
what happens, Joe, with these leagues is so with the high stakes leagues, the biggest difference from like your typical like home league is there's no trading, and the only way to improve your team is through FAB or the waiver wire, but with blind bidding. So it's not like a first come first serve or anything like that. And it's not like, you know, like, okay, I'm ranked like 1, I'm going to get top preference. Pretty much like anybody can get the guy if they bid the right amount. So it's blind bidding, and it gets competitive because, you know, you're hurting for like a tight end or a wide receiver or running back at some point during the season. You know, there's other guys bidding against you, you know, to get that same player. So that's the only way you can improve your team. So you really have to be that. I think that's a underrated aspect of high stakes fantasy football, is that we all like to listen. Drafting is fun, and we love to draft, and we kind of grade ourselves, and, you know, oh, this team looks great and this and that. But at the end of the day, like once the season starts, their injuries are going to hit, guys are going to bust. It happens all the time. You're never going to get everything perfect. And to improve your team, you got to be good on the waiver wire.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's one thing I learned a shit ton from you about is how you handle that.
Yeah.
And
I discovered you from I remember you know, when you had Rashard White that year. That was your guy. I'm seeing this. First of all, that
was Joey's guy that year too.
Yeah, but whatever. That was Nelson. That, you know, Nelson's on record.
That's where I got it from.
But I didn't know. I didn't know, because when I came on in COVID, you know, the only guys I knew, I didn't know there was a slew of high stake guys all over the place. I just knew Glenn Lowy and Vaccaro because of Ronas and Engel used to do the live draft, and those were the names they had on their show. It was really the only show. The only names I know. I didn't know there was. I see this guy Nelson Sousa. He's taking White every year, every 8th, 9th round, and I was like, that was the year that you took. You know, if you could take the 2 Browns or Lamb, the combo, you could get them late. I had good teams, but I didn't have the depth, the running back depth, the you know, and that flex spot depth. And I was like, this guy, he just every draft, and it paid off. And then I got in next year, and it was the Chase Brown year. Chase Brown, and last year you hit 2, and it just, you know, I had 2 great years for me.
Nelson is very good at nailing the RB2. So we got to ask him. 2026, who will want to give us 1 or 2 a year, a good RB2.
You don't want to give it all. You got to.
Whoa!
Wait,
yeah, we behind a paywall, Joe. Easy.
Nelson, I told Joey in golf analogy. He's the Scotty Scheffler of the.
That's right.
Oh, what the hell! I'll buy you an OC.
I mean, he might not win it. You know, he's always going to be he's very consistent. I mean, I can't relate any other golfers to guys, but I can tell you, you know, I can with Steve, but that golfer hasn't been born yet.
I remember the first year, the year he called Rashad White, and he nailed it. He says he's going to catch 50 balls that year. I think he caught 50 or 52, something like that.
Last year was the first
it might
year
have been closer to 70.
He may have caught more than that, but you said he definitely going to catch 50 that year when he was all over him.
Yeah.
I think you said that on the Empire, I think.
Yeah, so the funny story about how I started that was years ago when Zach Stacy emerged for the Rams back in the day. And what ended up happening was the starting running back got hurt that year. Zach Stacy came out of nowhere. He was a nobody, not a special talent. And I kept, you know, basically like I burnt myself the following year by gravitating to those running backs. And then that's when I started to feel like going more hero running back. And I was like, you know what? I want to get really strong wide receivers. I want to get one guy I can hang my hat on at running back. And I'm going to push RB2 back in a lot of my drafts. so I said, if I'm going to do that, I need to spend the time and do the research on looking at between drafting, looking at the depth charts, the teams, what the running back situation looks like, and really do the research on who are the value running backs this year that no one's really on, because, if you're taking them in the 7th, 8th round or whatever, no one's really like super excited to take that guy, right? So that's how it all started, was, years ago. But it was only recently that I started doing like an article on it, where I go through the process, and then I put the article together of like who the players are. And I feel like every year there's always one or two guys that you can grab, like in those like middle rounds there, that is going to return value.
I mean, he was dead. You were dead on last year with ETN, and the guy, he sat quiet on the Empire show. The guys were talking to, they were just talking about that. He just sat back, kicked back, and he got.
It was a running joke. Yeah,
that really got me a couple leagues, really.
Yeah, it was a running joke with the guys, because they knew that I was in on ETN, and it was like, all right, Nelson doesn't want to hear about Tootin. He doesn't want to hear about. Finally, Tank Bigsby got traded at some point during the preseason, but I was like, no, it's ETN. Like, I was just a broken record. And then the other guy was Javonte Williams. I had him also.
That was
on
great.
My article that I
10th round. He was 10th round.
him.
He got him. He produced what, like a 5th rounder, 4th rounder.
Yeah, he was. Listen, he slowed down at the end of the year. He looked like he was starting to, run out of gas a little bit, but he did what you needed him to do, which was get you out of the gate, have strong teams with Javonte, ETN, and that's what I try to do. I try to look at, like, the hidden treasure when everyone else, doesn't like these type of players.
And you had Swift too. I think Swift was pretty good last year. He was on.
I had Swift on the article. He was
bad last year.
He was super solid.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then and then my bonus player was J.K. Dobbins, and
right, he was good till he got hurt.
Yeah, that might have been a quadruple one last year. I don't think I can repeat that this year. That's going to be hard.
The beauty was that year with Chase Brown, I got him late, like double-digit rounds late, and then he just steamed in August, basically. What, to the 6th round, Nelson, that year?
He definitely moved up, but he started off slow too because of Zach Moss. But to end the year, he was a difference maker. He was putting up big numbers.
Absolutely, that was a beautiful year. And I think the first year wasn't Josh Jacobs before White. Yeah.
I
didn't. Right.
And that was the thing, was it was trying to find this year's Josh Jacobs, because that's kind of what rehashed it all for me, was like Josh Jacobs was nobody wanted him that year with the Raiders. Okay. He was like, he was like going 7th, 8th round drafts.
We let him slip into the 8th round because he got Hall of Fame game touches. Remember that?
Everyone hated that. It was like, Josh McDaniels is the new head coach. He hates Jacobs. Jacobs is still in the game with all these scrubs. Everyone liked Zamir White. That was like the rookie darling that everyone was gravitating to. Amir Abdullah was there, so they're like, what's Jacobs going to do with Abdullah and Zamir White there? And I was off of Jacobs also. I wasn't really interested in him, but there's always those guys that, people are not really interested. Very unsexy picks. So ETN last year, unsexy. Who was sexy? It was Tootin, right? He ran a 4.3 at the combine. Everyone was into him. And then Javonte Williams, except for his rookie year, he's been hurt. Not really anything special. Hasn't done anything. So it was kind of the same thing. It was like, you got Miles Sanders there, and then who was the sexy pick? It was Jaden Blue, right?
Oh yeah.
So he was the rookie running back that
Wearing
everyone,
$1,000 Gucci cleats, and he got blisters.
he got blisters. The
Blisters.
coaches started talking about that
And
this
put
kid's
him in the
not.
bench.
Yeah, he's not ready to
Right.
go, and here comes Javante, very blah type of pick. So yeah, my article is going to be those type of running backs. It's going to be those guys that go in those later rounds.
Devontae, I always felt as all he had to do was stay healthy, and there's no way that those other two guys were gonna really threaten his touches last year. That was a good. I didn't have any shits to be, like you said, Nelson. He's probably boring, and I think I only had nine teams, so I'm not doing 30, 40, but that's probably another reason why. But he's somebody that like I wasn't out on. I just didn't get a chance to draft him. I didn't make that a priority, I guess.
Yeah,
because he was boring, like you said. Or I just didn't put. I have a hard time putting my faith in guys who have an injury history. I guess too. I know Joey goes through it too.
I look at it as it's the NFL. Anyone can get injured, and everyone's injury prone until they're not, and everyone is healthy until they're not. So the way to look at it is this. If it depends to how you like to build your teams. If you're a guy that you want to have your two starting running backs by like round 4, then this might not necessarily like appeal to you so much. But if you're willing to go more of like a hero running back approach, go 4 wide receivers, get an edge at quarterback or a potential edge, or you get like a top tight end like Bowers or Loveland this year, you got to push a position back somewhere. And I just think that like running back is the position that there's value to be had like in those later rounds, whereas opposed to there's always a receiver here and there that you can grab that always outperforms their ADP, like Chris Olave, right? But like for every Chris Olave, there's a ton of guys that went around him that were complete busts. But like with running back, especially throughout the season, you got running back, you got timeshares, committees, you got guys getting hurt. So running back is the one position that I think you can have an easier time finding on the waiver wire in your leagues. Whereas like wide receivers, like you can grab a Michael Wilson that's a total difference maker for a few weeks in the season, but that's it. Like it's kind of like, okay, it was just Michael Wilson. You can find a tight end. You can find every position. I'm not saying you can't. I just think that running backs is more plentiful to find. And that's why I like that type of structure for my teams, is to go more like a hero running back approach.
That's the one.
That's what turned me. That really made sense to me, and because you got to start. This is just for the NFC. You got to start 3 wide receivers. Most likely, you're going to start 4, and if you don't have strength at wide receivers, you're not going to get there. Yeah. I mean, I've had that without the supporting cast, and you just fizzle.
Yeah,
and guys like you had that were the supplement guys that just lift you up, because it's a numbers game. I think you can. I had a team last year was the notorious team, but I was telling Nelson, I showed him. I said I got to get Genty. I took him 7 and took Barkley 2 second round, and then Taylor just laid in my lap in the 3rd round. But I just didn't get there because of the wide receivers. I got lucky because Quentin Johnson, I got a free look first game. I rode him for a little bit. I mean, I won the league, but it wasn't going to get me anything in the shootout.
Yeah,
just didn't have the strength that because you can't get. It was tough to get those wides. And the running backs tend to, a lot of them in December, you see these, they get tired, and if they don't catch passes, they don't have the September, October. They just wear down a little bit. So like Taylor did.
I like to, I draft a lot of teams, Michael. So like, I look at it as like, I like to have different structures, but like to count on, listen, when you leave your draft and you have Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs, Godwin, Jordan Tyson, DK Metcalf, and Alec Pierce. Like, I'm not trying to shit on those guys, but like, it looks good until the season starts, and then the season starts, and some of those guys are just not going to work out. It's just a number.
Your foundation, really.
Yeah, like, so you walked away with, you got your 2 starting running backs, your 2 stud backs that you took in the first 2 rounds. You took like a McBride in the 3rd round. This is NFFC, of course, that we're talking about. But like, let's say you take McBride in the 3rd round. You get your quarterback like in the 6th round. You take a couple of receivers. Listen, those receivers better work out. You got to start 3 of them. And if you don't hit on those guys, you're fighting an uphill battle. Your running backs have to be the nuts. Like,
right.
Those 2 guys, you got to hit on them. McBride's got to repeat from last year because you're going to be struggling at wide receiver. So I look at it as, give me the receivers in the earlier rounds, their hit rate. It's just, again, look at it this way. Like, the receivers that are going in the first few rounds, their hit rate, and they're more guaranteed to perform and do well than the receiver you take in the 6th round. It's just the way it works, So I prefer to have like good wide receiver play on my teams.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, because you were now it's kind of become vogue with the live streams. I just found you by chance on these live streams, 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It just helped me immensely because I could see all the boards and see what you're doing. I mean, look, like you said, you draft a lot of teams. You might mix it up and maybe not be wide receiver as heavy as you usually are in the first 4 or 5 rounds. But you were every time. I could see it, and then you get those running backs, and basically it holds. It doesn't drag you down. With your wide receiver play, it just holds it up there.
Basically. Yeah, and I try to tell the guys at FTN. You see the Discord chat where they'll look at some draft boards. They'll look at my live stream. They'll see a certain draft. They look at the next draft board the next day, and they're like, "What the fuck? Like it's a totally different team." And it's like, I'm doing volume. I have to draft different looking teams. Like I can't just take have the same exact structure, same exact players on every team. I gotta change it up. I'm still taking players I like. I have a fade list. I have guys that I shy away from that I just don't think.
You can't keep taking I could say the one because everybody knows it in Booker, but I think what Nelson's doing is he's getting everybody. Now everybody's taking him. He's going to go. It's like what we did in stocks. The guy we short of stock. Well, we really wanted to buy it, so all these guys are going to juice, and he's just going to. Now I'm kidding you.
I got everyone riled up with a Booker. I took
Duke, he moves.
Duke texted me. Duke texted me today, and he said, when you talk to Nelson later, you tell him to quit fucking taking a Booker in the 2nd round.
Well, he's trying to take it from you, Nelson. What is he? He complained that one time, and now he's taking him every draft a lot, Duke.
Well, so apparently Duke is also very fond of Ibuka, like I am, and he was secretly, getting Ibuka in the 3rd round. Just laying in the weeds, quiet. He's enjoying his drafts late at night, taking a book in the 3rd. Here I come, all of a sudden, I start drafting. I'm doing live streams.
It's not late at night for him. It's late at night for us.
Yeah. And I'm taking a book in the 2nd round, and I think I got him worked up a little bit because of that, because he's like, what the heck? I was getting him in the 3rd round, so. I think it's more of he also likes Ibuka this year.
What? So is it you? I was going to ask you this about Tampa Bay pass catchers without Mike Evans. Obviously, you think Ibuka is going to take a huge step, like almost like a JSN like step. I was reading an article today. I want to say it was maybe Matt Harmon, and he was talking about how Ibuka is going from the Z to the X, and he thinks that that's going to be the reason why. I don't know if If
That keeps him off
with,
press. Yeah.
so
Sorry, go ahead.
Steve just joined the chat. Nelson, you got pressure now. Steve's watching.
Oh, he must have finished the draft.
You don't want to look at the draft board he did for you tonight. You put the sous chef in, instead of the chef drafting that team tonight because you're on the show.
I think I got a funny feeling Steve handled himself pretty well.
Yeah, it's a lot of yellow. That's all I can say.
Steve, the Gamburglar was calling you B team.
Oh no! Come on, Steve. I mean, he tried. With that apology the other night, I said, "Steve, you never watched The Color of Money, the movie. It's two friends and a stranger. You messed it all up. You don't have to apologize." No, I'm just kidding. He's the best. You know what the funny thing is about Nelson, about Steve? What I like, he's very sharp. Very sharp.
Yeah, he is.
But he speaks a mile a minute. He's got ADD worse than anybody. Makes him sound like a church mouse. Makes me, even I got ADD. I said, look, I know a lot of successful people that have ADD. Believe me a little bit. But Steve, the thing about it is, Nelson, when he's smart and he gives out good information, guys like me can understand it, but most guys, they need a translator. They don't have them, so they can't pick up what he's saying.
No, Steve's sharp, and
he loves it. Look at him.
Imagine me inviting Steve and Modica onto my live stream. I can't get a fucking word in with those two guys.
You don't need to. You can get ratings will go. You get sponsorship galore. I'll tell you that much.
I like how he told the story about on was it with you?
Devontae Smith.
He told the story about the Massey projects. In New York.
Oh, yeah. He was working construction.
I'm in the middle of work and I'm laughing. Everyone's like, what the hell are you giggling at?
Look at him. He was super sick when he did Aces Up. He was
I've been sick all day. I've been drinking. My stomach, man, has been terrible all day. I was like, but, Big Steve G came on my show hacking up a lung. I can't cancel. So, yeah.
You gotta tough it out, man.
Yeah. 100%. Finally got Nelson on here, and of course I'm under the weather a little bit, but it's all right. What were we talking about? Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on McMillan, Jalen McMillan in the mid rounds there?
I think so. There's only so many targets to go around, right? And I think McMillan's going to help to be a little bit of a field stretcher. I think the Hurst kid will play a little bit, but I think it's going to be the Abuka and Godwin show. Those are your main guys that you want. McMillan's a nice little filler piece that you can get like in the teen rounds, but unless there's an injury to one of those guys, like I just don't see McMillan as like he's not really going to be fantasy relevant. Maybe like you can plug and play him like in a tough spot, later in the season, whatever, you got an injury or whatever. But I'm not a big McMillan fan because I just think that he's going to rotate with the Hurst kid.
Okay, so you're not at all concerned about Godwin and being washed or having too many injuries.
Listen, I mean, yeah, he right now I look at it as when I draft and when I'm looking at like fading guys or targeting guys, what are they right now? Are they healthy or are they not healthy? Right now, Godwin's healthy. So I look at it as when we get to August and we get to preseason and we start hearing some news like, oh, Godwin's taken off practices or whatever, or, this guy tweaked something or whatever, I'll change my mind on those guys. I'm not to the point of being so stubborn and pigheaded that I'm gonna keep like, oh, this is my guy, I'm gonna keep taking him. If the fucking guy's hurt, I'm gonna get off of him. Like, especially if it's a little preseason tweak or whatever, I'll buy the dip, but I'm not gonna get too worked up about it. But listen, there's a lot of guys, coming off injuries. We got Malik Neighbors, we got Scatabo, we got Judkins. There's a lot of guys that, need to answer questions on whether they're healthy or not and what that looks like. So I think we'll know
Neighbors
more.
too, right?
Huh?
Neighbors.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is probably the biggest one because he's the biggest, when healthy, he's the biggest difference maker out of all these guys that are coming into the season with injury questions. You know, if he was healthy and everything was good, he's a first, second round pick, you know, locked in. So I look at it as like for Godwin, I think right now he's healthy. I think he'll be fine. I think Ibuka, like you said, Joe, like I think him switching positions, I think he's going to play some of the slot. Also, Zach Robinson, I think, is a very good offensive coordinator. If you look at him with the Falcons, he uses a lot of motion. He'll go play action with these guys. I think he's going to find ways to get these guys involved. And it's an offense minus Mike Evans, who is the alpha of the offense. So yeah, if you want to compare to like JSN, I want to be careful because JSN had a really monster season. But yeah, he's probably the guy that's kind of going in the same ADP range as JSN last year. DK Metcalf off the roster. There's vacated targets there. You know, they have some similarities.
And I think Ibuka needs a healthy Godwin to be really good. I mean, Godwin's just got to be decent, in my opinion. You know, he's got to have some help over there. Evans gone to put up that good year. I think he needs Godwin to be healthy and halfway decent.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of guys too will point to, you know, he was pretty bad, you know, to end the season. I'm giving him a mulligan because I look at it as I'm focused more on how he started off the season, and he was awesome, and then he got injured, and Baker Mayfield got injured, and a lot of people don't talk about it, and it was actually I think it just came up. I saw it on my Twitter feed. It was either yesterday or whatever that Baker played with like PCL injury and he had a shoulder arm injury also. You know, that changes things, man. Like that's why I say all the time, like we can be right on a player and wrong at the same time. So the guys that drafted Ibuka, we started off on fire, you know, to start the year, and then things fizzled, you know, and it was due to injuries. We can't control that.
That's the same thing. Like my Silver Bullet team last year was really good first half of the year, but the two players I had was Ibuka and Jonathan Taylor. They was both awesome, and they both slid out. I guess after Daniel Jones went down, JT slowed down too tremendously there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the defense can now just
I had both of those
focus
two
on
players.
him.
Man, they just died on me. But you have to. They're both productive players. You're going to be drafting them. So
yeah.
That Indy was a top 7 offense before Daniel Jones got hurt. So yeah.
I mean, even JSN was a monster all season long, and then when it mattered most in the shootout, when we're trying to win these big overall prizes, he had a couple of duds. So that happens. So you have guys like Taylor and those guys carry you, and then they fizzle at the end of the year.
But Ibuka looked really good.
Yeah, Henry 2 years ago was nothing in the shootout. Last year he gave you the monster game against Green Bay. It was just but that's similar to that. I mean, those guys, Barkley 2 years ago, he was nothing in the shootout.
Yep. And the other guy last year. So two of the big tight ends that you needed. I mean, McBride was good all year, but Kyle Pitts is not Kyle Pitts without London getting hurt, right? I think we can pretty much agree to that. And Pitts goes and puts up a 40-point game, and that's all, he's a difference maker. Now, everyone with Kyle Pitts had him all year long, He was nothing special. Probably, felt like below average, and then boom, he puts up that big week. And that's why like my mentality switches from like the big money confined leagues to when I'm drafting like main events and like these 350 leagues and you're taking a shot at a big overall prize. I take on a little more risk with like the main events and the 350 teams versus I'm in a 10K league. I tend to draft not necessarily like, I guess, conservative. I draft more of a solid team. I just want the team to compete, and I don't get crazy with like my builds and stuff like that. If there's a guy going into the season that's going to start on the pup list, I got to get a really good deal on him. I don't want to waste like Malik Neighbors. Let's use him as a hypothetical, right? If Malik Neighbors, they announce he's going to start on the pup list, he's going to drop a couple of rounds, is my guess. Right now, people are taking him in 4th round. He's pretty much locked in. Goes in the 4th round of drafts, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
If he starts on a pup list, he's going to go probably to the 6th round.
Right.
The later in the draft that we go, I actually gravitate to those type of guys in big tournaments because I don't care about Malik Neighbors the first 6 weeks of the season. I'm trying to project what does Malik Neighbors, a healthy Malik Neighbors, look like in that offense in weeks 15, 16, 17. Could he be the X factor for my team that I drafted? And if he's not, and he's just not healthy all year, I wasted a 6th round pick. That's not necessarily going to like break your season if you miss on your 6th round pick. There's plenty of those that happen every year, and people still win.
Right, exactly. Well, you saw Chad last year. He had one of his top teams had Neighbors on it. I just looked it up at the end just to see. You could see all his teams.
Yeah,
and he drafted Neighbors, and I think that was his top 5. He was top 5 or whatever that team. He was winning at one point. And
he drafted him in the 1st round.
Exactly.
So that team was up there in the prime time. It put up a huge week, and it was contending there to the end. It was Trevor Lawrence, and I think he had Pitts on that team.
Gainwell on that team too.
Yeah, it was
ASN in the lobby, I think, right?
It wasn't a pretty team to look at,
but it got hot at the right time.
But it got hot. Listen, we grinded that team because I helped Chad last year in running a lot of his teams, and we were proud of that because that was a Malik Neighbors team with Jaden Daniels in the 4th round, and Jaden Daniels.
I couldn't believe it. So that tells you most guys you get injuries, you just suck it up, and look what you guys did.
I so bad wanted that team to win because I wanted to use that as an example that, listen, you lose your 1st and your 4th round pick, and this team still won an overall title. I wanted that story to be able to tell for a few years.
I gotta ask Nelson, 2023 prime time. James Cook was about to take you across the finish line, I believe.
Oh, geez.
In that game, and then that
he doesn't have any Pepto-Bismol with him. Come on, he ran out of Pepto-Bismol.
I just want to know, like, what, tell us about that. I want to know that, like, what that feels like. Oh my God, like.
He was puking in the toilet.
So what ended up happening? I was
in my mind. In my mind, you won that year. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah. My mind, I won that year. My bank account says no, that didn't happen. So, but I was leading the prime time going into weeks 17, and I had a Kansas City stack, and I had Mahomes, and I want to say I had Kelsey, and I had might have had McKinnon on that team with Pacheco. Okay. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and I'm like, man, Pacheco's, he might be the goal line back, but if he's freaking running it in, this is bad for, my Mahomes and the rest of these guys that I need for Mahomes to throw touchdowns. So I said, this James Cook kid, he's electric. He looks good. Monday night game against the Bengals, big total. I'm gonna roll James Cook out there for the win. Was basically my thought process. I felt like it was too many eggs in one basket with Kansas City, and come to find out why I mentioned Pacheco. If I play Pacheco, I win. Like Monday night game doesn't even matter at that point. But I played James Cook, and go to sit down to watch the game. Cook ripped off a couple of runs. He looked pretty good, right at the beginning of the game. And then, Hamlin went down, and I'm like, oh shit, concussion or whatever I thought at first. And then it became, more and more serious. I realized that, okay, this game might not get played tonight. But I was pretty confident. Even after that, I wasn't nervous because honestly, I was like, this is the NFL. They're never like those teams. I believe they were like vying for a playoff spot. Like they were in playoff contention that year, the Bills and the Bengals. So I looked at it as like they're going to play like Wednesday or Thursday night or something like that this week. And a lot of these contests, they're just going to extend their fantasy season and let that game get played out. And then as the week started going, I was like, hey, what's going on here? And then at that point, so what I would say, Joe, is like, it wasn't like, this broke my heart, and everything all in one night. I wasn't nervous on Monday night with the game being suspended. I just figured that they would just, start up the game later in the week. So I had a few days to kind of, process things and everything. But that's if you want to talk about bad beats, I know you're a poker player, Joe. Like that's a bad beat. That's
a tough one to swallow, man.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
What was Dan's question? I missed it when I was talking.
He wants to know.
Steve answered it. He's like answered it for you now. He's feeding the audience, Steve.
He wants to know how you manage KDS. Like
Dan Nelson's KDS is boring. I put the seventh pick as my number one slot and go nuts from there. That's great advice right there. Yeah, I mean,
yes. You got to listen to the legend, right, Nelson?
Yeah,
the legend.
Yeah, my KDS is boring. If you want to live a little, just put your number one spot as seventh overall. No exposure to Gibbs, Bijan, Jamar Chase, Puka. Just keep drafting in the middle of the draft.
Start, right? Just get your stream of yellow to start.
No, so like to answer Dan's question though, right now the way I'm setting it is I go 1 through 4. I like all those guys. I want a piece of those guys. I think, Puka is a step above the other guys. Although I'm totally fine with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He would be he's like 5th overall. If I was drafting in a 100K league tonight, that's how I would go with those guys. I would take Gibbs, Bijan, Chase, Puka, Amon-Ra. But I love living in the back end, especially at NFFC. I want to be on the back end because there's so many different ways to build the teams from back there, and so many different combos. You could go CD, AJ Brown. You could go Jefferson, London. You could go Chase Brown, James Cook. You could go Genty, Ken Walker. Like there's just so many different options. I enjoy that. Like I rather if I could, I want exposure to the front guys. So don't get me wrong; those guys are elite monsters. So I'm gonna set my KDS 1 through 4, 1 through 5. But then after that, I want to be in the back end.
Yeah, you basically, Nelson, you got the 2. I think the last draft I was in, Did you want to get some exposure to Bijan? Because they just took Bijan first, and you got Gibbs twice in a row. Or is that you just said that's fine? Would you prefer Gibbs? Did you really want to get any exposure to Bijan, or not really?
Of course, I want exposure to Bijan, but listen, at the 2 pick, I can't help it. The guy in the 1 hole took Bijan both times, so I take Gibbs both times.
Absolutely.
I look at it as, Steve and I, we're going to be drafting we still have hundreds of teams to draft until week 1 of the opening season. I'm not worried. I'm going to get plenty of Bijan Robinson. So no, he's not a guy that I'm avoiding or anything like that.
It was just funny that it happened twice.
He said hundreds.
You don't expect that.
Let me ask you this, Nelson. Would you consider, I know where you do a lot of volume, but would you consider doing a build with Chase from 1? Have you thought about that?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
I wouldn't consider it. No, I think Gibbs and Bijan are set up to be, big volume, explosive running backs. I think they're the clear 1-2. And I love Jamar Chase. I'm taking him. I think he's the clear 3 for me.
Right.
But I look at it as the team that I can get at 3 with Chase is the same team that I can get at 1 with Chase. So if I've got the 1 or 2, I'm taking one of those running backs. Yeah.
Nice. There you go. So yeah, the back end. I like the back end myself, Nelson. Like you said, there's a lot of options you can go in the first 2 rounds. I also noticed that there's some drafts. Some guys fall into that with the 3rd round reversal where it comes back to you. Some guys will fall from the 2nd round to the 3rd round, especially as we get closer, and as we get closer to draft season. The more we draft, like for instance, like I've seen Bowers start to slide in there every now and then into the 3rd round. There's every draft is different, but I feel like some drafts you can get lucky and the right guys fall out of the 2nd round into the 3rd round, especially when you got, you're pushing a Booker up into the 2nd round. Devonta Smith found his way into the 2nd round. Who knows how it's going to look once training camp starts and we get some news and injuries happening and whatnot. But yeah, that's just one thing I noticed. Like the back end definitely is a little bit more advantageous. I would say, as far as wiggle room goes. In the 1 spot, you obviously the front half of the board, like you said, you get the elite monsters, the 400 touch potential monster volume guys, running backs. And your Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, 30, 40 point spike week type of players. So
I think once you reach like pick 7, 8 in the 2nd round, I think there's like a distinct drop off in the players that I really like to players like I like them, but there's a drop off. So when I'm drafting like at 1, 2, 3, I'm looking for like a certain player. Hopefully, like we have some wacky stuff go on in the 2nd round, a little bit of, ADP shakeup, and one of those guys drop. But right now, very rarely does that happen, just because it's the same group of wise guys, I call them, that are drafting every night. They're familiar with the board. They know where guys, usually go or whatever. No one's really except for Steve, my guy Steve, no one's really willing to shake up the board too much at this time of year. So, those guys don't fall. So I definitely think that if you're drafting in the back half of the 1st round, middle of the 1st round, there's guys that are going to stretch to you that I really like this year. I think building teams with Bowers, building teams with Walker, I'm high on. I'm looking at a draft right now. James Cook went in the 2nd round, Hampton, London, AJ Brown. And then I think there's a little bit of a drop off. And then that's when like I got stuck in a couple of those live streams that you guys saw where I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking Ibuka. Like that's the next guy I like. You know, I'm not going to take a guy at ADP because, oh, this is where he belongs,
Right.
and I don't really like him. So
especially where it's that you don't get that pick coming back around. It's going back to 12, so you got to really make that pick count. Right? You know
That's
what I mean?
that's the one thing that I have learned from Nelson over the years. Yeah, he's gonna put together teams, and that's one thing I can tell you I took from him a little bit. I'll take it. If I want my guy, I'm gonna take him. You have to take chances in these high stakes leagues. I mean, you don't knock the whole team, but every now and then you have to take a chance on a player. You just don't be afraid, just pull them up. Don't worry about the ADP.
Yeah, you got to look at it as like ADP. You know, it gets set up by degenerates like us that are drafting in freaking June and July, right? Or even earlier. Okay, so we established the ADP, but it's not necessarily sharp ADP. There is some ADP that of like players that I think people get wrong, that the general public gets wrong. So I look at it as that's why I have a fade list. That's why there's certain guys I just think are overvalued, and then there's guys that are undervalued. So to Joey's point, you know, you reach a certain point in the draft where you don't really love anyone. Like, okay, I really like this guy, but he doesn't usually go here in this area. You can't worry about like that kind of stuff. You can't worry about what people are going to think.
Right.
You can't worry about your league mates making fun of you or whatever. You just got to take the guys that you believe in. So that's why like those first couple of live streams that I started and I think I was drafting out of like the top 3 spots. And I was like, all right, screw it. I'm taking Ibuka here. And, you know, Ibuka wasn't going there, but I knew that Ibuka wasn't going to come back. Yeah. So, you know, that I think, you know, it's good to have ADP as like a guide, but I don't think like you should just like follow it like, you know, perfect step by step. There's a lot of guys you can look back at prior draft boards every year, guys in the first, second, third, fourth round that are going to bust, and it's littered with guys that are going to underperform. So, you know, what does that tell you? That tells me that ADP is not as sharp as maybe one might think.
Right. You use it as almost like a guide, and guys that you're higher on, you know where to push up, and you know, and then that's how you come up with your fade list too. You determine who's overvalued. There's another. I wanted to ask you about your fade list. Other than guys being overvalued at ADP, what are some of the important factors that help make you decide that you're fading a player?
If I think that, you know, the guy is injured, coming off a serious injury, I tend to shy away from those guys if they're going higher. Like, let me give you an example. Like Tucker Kraft is a really good one. Steve's going to love this one because Steve loves Tucker Kraft this year. So Tucker Kraft was my most owned tight end last year. This year, I'm fading Tucker Kraft. So year to year.
Excuse me, one second, Nelson. Last year, remember you had Tucker originally on the fade, but you made an adjustment real quick.
I did. So my fade list.
That's why he works. He works in real time, like this. You know, information changes. He's not. That's
good. That's how you have to be fluid. You have to
sit on his ego. Exactly. That was smart.
Listen, Michael, I have an ego, but it's not big enough for me to be a donkey.
It's not Steve's ego, or maybe
like okay, Tucker Kraft is going to be a big part of this Green Bay offense. I can't keep this fucker on my fade list. You know, I don't need to like. Oh, you know, I put my fade list out on July 9th last year.
That would change that, though. But that was a smart move. So I learned a lot from that. move.
Originally, I had Kraft on my fade list.
He's not trying to. He's not trying to get one over on anybody. Steve, come on. He's the classic.
Steve's So that's the running joke. So Steve and Matty Modica, because Modica liked Kraft last year. He goes, "Oh, I see how Nelson works. He puts Kraft on the fade list, and that somehow he becomes his highest owned tight end. How does that happen?" I'm like, guys, you got to give me a break. I put Kraft on the fade list July 9th, and then he was removed. I got to go back and look, but I actually date it of like, hey, remove Tucker Kraft.
Why? So you go back in your art in the thing, and you could look at what the reasoning you put behind it.
And subscribers, you guys can go back.
I forget what it was,
but. and you can look. And I had gotten good information that Kraft was going to be a big part of the offense. I'm like, okay, I fucked this one up. I'm going to take him off. That's it. Like, right. I'm not going to double down and keep him on there. And so I did a 180, and he became my highest owned tight end because of where he was going. But going back to my point, like with the fade list, so Kraft is like a guy that if we finally get like some good news on him and things, look good with him in the preseason, then I might actually take him off. But like what I try to explain to like the FTN subscribers is that, my fade list is not, static. It's a living, breathing thing that I update in real time. It's not just an article that I posted in July and it just stays there stagnant. So I look at it as, okay, things change, things evolve. There might be guys every year this happens. And I'm trying to remember who it was last year. It was a couple of players, Michael, that I did not have on the fade list. I was drafting them. Okay. And then I put them on the fade list late, and I put it on the Discord chat. Guys, I don't like what's going on with this, so-and-so. Don't draft him. I think Ken Walker was one of them. So with Walker, I had gotten, good information that he was going to be splitting with Charbonnet, no matter what. There was no riding the hot hand or whatever. They were going to split it down the middle. They wanted to keep Walker healthy. They felt like he was, banged up, the last couple of years. So knowing that, and Walker was a third-round pick in our high-stakes drafts, he was overvalued. He's a fade for me. Charbonnet became more of a target for me because I'm like, okay, if Charbonnet's the goal line back and he's getting some passing downs and everything, like there's some value there. It never quite worked out. I don't know what happened. Charbonnet, every time he filled in for Walker in prior years, he was a monster. But like last year, he didn't look quite as explosive or whatever. So, but anyways, like that's an example of a guy late in the draft season. I'm adding him, even though I had drafted him already prior. I add him to the fade list. Now he's a guy I don't draft because I'm drafting, for these next 2.5 months, I'm drafting almost every night. I'm always updating my cheat sheet, my fade list, my targets list, and I don't know, like, people might look at it as like, Nelson's changing his mind on this guy. He likes this guy. Now he doesn't. Listen, if you're not doing that and you have such an ego that you just want to be stubborn and double down on this is my guy. I want to flag plant this guy.
You're going to be a donator.
Yeah. I'm about trying to make money.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm about making money, and
exactly.
And if something, and I try to think logically with a lot of this stuff, and I manage it kind of like a stock portfolio. I know a lot of people, might actually like chuckle at that, but that's how I treat it because it's so many teams and it's such a huge dollar amount that you're in for each year that you need to consider these guys kind of like stocks, right? Absolutely. There's some bad stocks, some good stocks, when to buy low on a stock that, is depressed, things like that, but very rarely, like I try to lay low on the hype guys for the most part, as much as I can. Like I was a big Trevion Henderson fan last year.
Not as
Really
big as
liked
Matt,
him.
though.
Huh?
Not as
No,
big
they
as
can
Matt.
love me too.
Matt's line was Trevion to the moon.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought, my opinion was Stevenson. I don't think's anything special. They brought in Trevion, kid's explosive. I could see a lot of different paths of him being a difference maker in this offense, especially if something happened to Stevenson. I don't wish injury on anyone, but if he kind of went away, Henderson, could be an X factor. And we saw a glimpse of it for a little bit last year. So, but he was getting so hyped up because of that freaking kick return in the preseason that he took for a touchdown. He got steamed up to like the third round. I, for the most part, kind of stayed away from that. I was like, man, I like it. I liked him better when I was getting him in the fifth round. And it's like, okay, if I can get him there, I like Henderson, but in the third round, you're grouping him with some legit receivers, and I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to take Henderson over the wide receivers that are available.
I agreed with
what
you.
did Steve say? Sorry,
That was last year, right, Nelson? That was last year, right?
I had
Last
one
year.
share last year, and I got him in the sixth round. I'm in the same boat with you there. There was no way. Like I think I have to go back and look at some of my old shows. I think I hit the touches. I think I was saying 180 touches for Henderson and 210 for Ramondre. That was my projection last year, going into last year. I think that was pretty close.
I had him on my best team. I drafted him.
So there's no way I was taking Henderson in the third round.
I told Nelson I can't get Wham. My guy's sniping me, and so I just took the. I had to move it up. I got on my last team. I think it was Wham, Brown, Pickens, Smith, Trevi. Trevi was the third pick, and I even got Rice. I hated him, but I got him in like the sixth or seventh, and it was like Dallas just shit the bed that one. What was the week in the shootout? They shit the bed 1 week. I forget who it was. So
you want to hear a funny story? Is Steve? He was in the kitchen with his wife, and he said, "Hey, do you want to buy?" like a weekend home, up in the Catskills, okay? Up in the Hudson Valley. We can kind of go up there for the weekend, visit Nelson and everything. What do you think? The wife said, not right now. He goes, okay, so instead of buying the house, I'm going to take that money. We're going to invest in fantasy football.
Nice.
Oh, my God.
Did she know what she was getting into?
I don't know if
Steve's a classic, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's figured it out that he's a sick puppy.
She didn't. Yeah, she knew that probably going in.
Yeah,
come on. The dog thinks the dog. He said it was 11 years old. The dog thinks he's a sick puppy.
Yeah,
but he's a classic, though. I mean, he gave me his number. What he say? Here's my number. Call me. So the first time he calls me, I loved it. It's a priceless call. Sniper, what did you think of my team? Sniper. I couldn't stop laughing. But it doesn't get much better than that. The man's the best. And
Steve.
Like I said, most people can't understand him, which is great because they can't pick up what he's all the insight he gives. But he's the best. You're probably having the time of your life.
Listen, the best was last week. I listened to your show. Obviously, I enjoy you guys. I love when guys are together talking about high stakes fantasy football, and then my guy Steve joins. I'm like, wait a minute, we got a dude from Boston with a Boston accent. We got Joey with the Kentucky accent. We got Mike from Philadelphia, and we got you from Queens. I gotta listen to this show.
I mean, I corrupted Joey this year with the fantasy hockey. I mean, Joey, I did pretty well in hockey this year. The DFS, partly because it's great in the Discord with Kenny, but that's my favorite thing. I corrupt them. I don't even think they have ice in Kentucky.
No, we don't have that.
He's like, what's that hockey tonight? I corrupted the man.
There you go. He's gonna. There it is. He's gonna do Sin City. Oh, for the record, now, there was no tampering going on with Steve G signing with the Aces Up crew.
Yeah,
I heard him talking shit about that. So he's got his head, man. His head is getting like this.
Plus, he's got no guaranteed money. There's no guaranteed money. We really set it up to get Nelson. That's how we played it.
Listen,
these guys.
Steve's got bragging rights because I told him, I said, hey, I'm going on the show tonight, and he's like, so what? I was on last week. Big deal.
But we set him up. We set that up to get you. He doesn't even know. Most of the guys are sharp in Queens. I don't know about this guy.
I told him, I go, Steve, listen, they settled for you because I was busy. I had stuff going on last week, but they looked at it as like, all right, this is our in. Let's get Steve on the show, butter him up a little bit. He's got the connection with Nelson. Look at him. Now he's trying to get on with Josh and Dan on their show.
Yeah. But he's a good drafter. I got to give him that.
Yeah,
we kid
Listen,
around.
Dan,
The man knows what he's doing. There's a method.
Listen, tell Dan I want to be on his show because I own a Bengals jersey. I got a Ocho Cinco jersey.
We are.
So I figured it was a Nicky, not a Nicky Woods.
So Nelson, mid-August, I think they said mid-August, we're going to do a live stream with 5 tag teams. So
I got Steve Nelson, my partner. I'll get him. You know what? The one time I'll get him when he's
I think Joey's looking for a partner.
Okay, so it's going to be Joey and I tag team.
Right, yeah.
See, Joe, look at you, buddy. You're spelling the shit tonight. Look at you. I got Steve.
Joey's the only one without a partner. So we got Billy Waz and Willie Miles as one team. We got Steve and the Gampergola. We got me and D'Angelo because we have a couple teams rolled over from last year. And who am I missing? We got
Dan and Josh.
Dan and Josh, yep, and now we got
Joey and Nelson.
We got Joey and Nelson.
Hey, Steve.
That's
Steve,
5. We can
dump you after this draft when he gets with Joey. Hey, Nelson, did you hear? I don't know if you heard. Dr. Roto was on 2 weeks ago. He actually said if anybody was going to draft for him, if he needed somebody, he picked Joey Brown. That's true. You can hear it on the replay. Joey Brown listen. Dr. Roto let Joey Brown pick his team.
Joey doesn't fuck around in these drafts.
No, he doesn't, man.
When he gets in a draft, he's taking his guys 100%.
We need 6. We can Steve. We can only have 10 guys on a stream because that's the max.
10 on the stream. Yeah. I got you.
So what we could do 5 and 5. 5 on one channel, 5 on another. I don't know. That's how that would work, but.
Steve, we could get you could get pay per view. We just make the money.
Steve wants to make it a full 12. He wants to make it a Royal Rumble. So
we got to do 6 tag teams. I'll pull up my stream. We'll Joey and I will air it on Netflix.
Get Matt and Paul in there.
Yeah,
why don't you get Matt and Paul in there?
Yeah, we'll get like Spiteri and Vaccaro or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That'd be a good one too.
We need 12 teams. Yeah, that's what he said. We need 24
week,
people.
Somebody's going to be the $300,000 winner in that week. It's almost guaranteed.
Nice. Or we're all going to finish with the 500 record in the same amount of points. One or the other. Yeah. We got to get the Hillsheims involved in this. That's what we got, Dan. We thought about having a couple live and then bringing a few partners on at a time after. We'll figure it out, Dan.
Oh man,
nice.
So Nelson, you guys. Steve tells me you're doing the new one, the big enchilada one.
Yeah,
that's going to be exciting, right?
Yeah. So it's the 100K. So with the NFFC acquiring FFWC, they're bringing over their main events and their big money leagues. And this year, for the first time, there's the Legacy League, which is NFFC, FFWC, and Circa Casino are all, partnering up, and they're holding a 100K league, first one ever.
Wow.
So we're in it, and
How many teams? How many teams is it?
12 teams.
Oh, like a combined league.
Is it
Yeah.
third round reversal, Nelson?
It's going to be drafted on NFFC. Yeah, it's third round reversal.
So you're going to do it online?
Steve wants me to go out to Vegas with him. So I told him I don't travel much these days or whatever.
100,000. You better. Well, you can't let him run out of his bridle there with the.
No, absolutely. I'm so busy with my kids. My youngest, he's in travel ball. He's got baseball. He's got basketball and stuff. So I live
right.
I live through my kids. So
I got all the talent from his wife too.
It's not for me. Yeah, not for me.
I got all the talent from the wife.
Yeah.
He's just Nelson's just along for the ride.
Yeah, but I it's fantasy football, and then spending time with the family and watching my boys play sports and stuff. So my oldest plays college football, and Braden, my youngest one right now, he's going to be a sophomore in high school. He's playing basketball, baseball. That's his two sports that he likes.
Nice.
So, but we'll see. We'll see. Steve wants me to go out there to Vegas. They're going to have like these cabanas out by the pool, and the draft board's going to be on that big screen TV they have. I guess they're going to have these girls in bikinis, coming up to you, grabbing the ticket, and they're going to have like a commissioner announcing the picks and stuff. Pretty neat, pretty legit.
Nice. We should be able to. It should be live. It should definitely be live streamed somewhere. Then.
So it's going to be the same weekend as they do their Survivor pool, and that's a big thing over there. And I think they're going to have there's like 50 radio stations, and there's going to be some TV coverage and things like that. So it should be pretty big.
Nice.
Yeah, Nelson, you're definitely yelling at you. Man. Steve will just run out of his jeez. But you know what? He won the platinum last year, right? Steve
did. Him and David Hubbard. So David Hubbard's another good friend of mine.
He's good too.
That I've partnered for years with, and yeah, they ended up getting in that league. They actually took my spot in the platinum last year, and yeah, they drafted it and they ended up winning the platinum. So they did a really good job, with that team. That team. You want to speak of like first round busts? Their first pick was Brian Thomas.
I remember that.
And we know how that ended up, and they still won the 20K league. That's
Steve. You know what? He's crazy, but there's a method to his madness.
Yep. Yeah. No, you can. It makes it much harder, but you can bust on your first round pick and still win your league. It's been proven now several times through the years, but you got to thread the needle. It makes it tougher. Right. So
I'll tell you one draft that Delton does. I watch really close, and I really gauge it. I don't normally draft my prime time until after you do the New York Super. Mm-hmm. That's when I really try to do the bullet and the prime time after, because I like to see what you do and a few other guys.
There's a lot of good owners in that league. All from pretty much the East Coast. We've been in the league together for many years, battling each other. And that's definitely one league that you can throw ADP out the window, where every guy sitting down, it's not so much everyone trying to be the smartest guy in the room. It's just guys have conviction on who they like for players. They know they're in a draft with a bunch of other wise guys in the room, and they're not going to get special deals on a player they really like. So you got to make a decision, on when you're willing to push a guy up.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest drafts I've watched. It's always on SiriusXM, so you can follow the draft board along that.
I got to see it live in person last year for the first 10 rounds anyway. Then I had to go catch the train back to Boston.
Yep.
That was fun. Yeah, the big push up last year was Drake London. Billy Wasowski took him at 6. Was it 6 overall? I think
sixth or seventh overall.
Well, that's
Yeah.
just speaking about that. We'll get Willie and Billy to do a team.
They're in. They're already in.
They're already in.
Yeah, they're already in. I've been talking to Billy about live streaming an auction too. He's definitely in. I got to pick a date out for that. He wants. I haven't live streamed an auction yet. That'll be interesting.
Do you do a lot of auction drafts, Nelson? Do you do any?
Yeah, I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But I don't really do much online. I do the 2 in New York. So in New York City, they have 2 live auctions, a $2,500 one and a $1,600 one. And where Steve and I are in those this year.
Nice.
So that from, to be honest with you, is more.
You're in those with Steve doesn't have the patience to do the auctions. Come on.
We'll see. We'll see if he is. But
Steve with the patience because they last a long time. They can last a long time.
Yeah, they're 3-4 hours long.
Exactly. Steve,
they're a marathon. The funniest part is going to be trying to cover Steve's mouth, because here's the thing about Steve. Like, if we want a player and someone keeps bidding us up, he's got the mentality of like, he's like, this fucking guy ain't getting him. So he's like 28, and then like the guy's like, oh, I'll go 29. Steve's like 32.
It'd be like the Italian guy from Money Talks when they're bidding on the car.
Yeah. So I got to be careful with Steve on that.
Oh,
and then Chris Tucker gives him the
Yeah.
I can see that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Steve take an Ambien and let him sleep a little bit.
Knowing that you and Steve have a team, I'm gonna be begging Tom to let me be the auctioneer guy. Going once, going twice.
Yeah.
I might want to be involved in that now.
I can already picture it. Steve's going to be banging the table, and we're going to be going up against Edelman, Vaccaro, Billy, all these wise guys from New York. So,
and it's fairly quiet during those too, from what I remember. I got there last year at the tail end of one of them, and it seemed pretty quiet and serious. Like there was no Steve G like personalities going crazy.
Believe me, it's going to be different this year with Steve in it. It's going to be a little bit not as quiet for sure.
I'll tell you what, Steve did. He was rookie and player of the year last year. He told me it was first year in NFC.
It was,
that's impressive.
Yeah, he had a really good season. First year in NFFC. It was a learning curve for him. He said, he had to. There's a few things that he adjusted. He had to adjust to and everything. But I think second year is going to be a big year for us.
Well, you guys are putting in how many hundreds? 300-400? How many teams do you put into the OC?
It's going to be in the hundreds. We're going to max out the prime times, as many as we can do.
What is the max?
I believe is 60.
Okay.
So,
probably maxed out the OCs for sure.
And then the OCs, Steve's trying to get me to stop drafting them. I'm in one every night. So
he wants you to stop drafting. How that's ironic.
Right?
He's drafting. He's showing me he's drafting the FFPC like it's popcorn. He's just like all over the place. He's got 5 or 6 going on at once. He says.
He told me, he's like, hey, let's slow down. It's only July or whatever.
Oh, he's telling you to slow down. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm like, this is priceless.
He's telling you to slow down when he's got more going on the FFPC. Are you in on that too?
Listen, when you go in the lobby, you guys know how to search, right? And go to the league and see the names of like who signed up. So if you don't see like at Nelson or whatever, whatever pops
Fantasy
up, whatever,
Sopranos.
You're gonna see at Fantasy Sopranos. I'll be like, I'll text them at 7:00 at night. Hey Steve, what are you doing tonight? I'm taking a break your recommendation. Oh, I'm drafting OC tonight. That's how that conversation is going to go.
Nice. Let me ask you this, Nelson. Is there a threshold if you want to, like, say I want to decide, like, the most I've ever done is 9 last year, 9 OCs. If I wanted to decide I'm going to do a little bit more volume, is there a threshold number that you suggest to actually give you a higher chance at a shot at the overall prize? Is 22 a huge difference from 15, or is 25 like what number would you say put you in the running with some of the
Nelson, because Steve would say infinity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to know, like, what, like, I know at some point there is the percentages take over. I know, like, I understand.
I see what he's saying.
Why you want to have that many teams, but
I've had a couple of top 5, top 10 finishes in the overall contest, because at the end of the day, like, you're getting into it. Listen, first place in the league is $1,500. Okay. Which I'm, it's all relative. I'm not saying it's chump change, but you're getting in the OC because you're looking at it for $350. I could potentially win 300,000, and that's life-changing money for a lot of people, not the $1,500. So right. I look at it as, if you're getting in, you're not necessarily trying to just grind and win, this $1,500. You're trying to win the overall. So the mindset to have is not so much like the number should be based on how many different, how much player exposure you want to have to certain players. How do you want to structure your teams? And then the number is going to come to you based off of that, where you say, like, okay, 30 is the magic number, because if I can draft in the back half, like we talked at the beginning of the show, where you can get AJ Brown with CD, I can get Jefferson with London, I can get Hampton and Chase Brown together, I could get James Cook with Genty, many different combinations, right? We talked about that. So if you feel like, okay, in the shootout, any of these guys could be a difference maker, I want to get exposure to all these guys and have some different combos. How many teams do I have to draft to arrive at that number? So I look at it, for me personally, I look at it more like that than just I think it's kind of like an arbitrary number to say, like, okay, like 50 is the magic number that, you have a good shot at winning it. If you're a shitty drafter,
I was just going to say that
you don't have a good shot at 20 versus 5, it doesn't matter. So I look at it more of like, if you do 3 or you do 6 or whatever, you're not going to be able to get exposure to necessarily every guy that you potentially want, that you think could be a difference maker in the shootout. So that's where, okay, to answer your question, 6 or 9 is probably not that number. You probably need to be more like, 21, 24, 30, in that range.
And one thing I like, especially like with Nelson and Steve doing volume, if they say 60 prime times, let's say they win 20 OCs, they get 20 prime times at $350 a pop, really, going into next year if you choose to take the prime time. I think that's a good payoff too. For you probably would switch those for prime times, wouldn't you?
So the prime times, that's a different story. So with the prime times, you're talking about high dollar.
I mean, like if you win the OC,
he's talking about if you win the
prime time for next year. If you win
20 of your OCs, you could get 20 prime for free next year.
Oh yeah.
That money.
That's good for that option. Sure.
Your volume, how you play.
No, absolutely. I was thinking more of along the lines of like what you were saying as far as like the prime times. I have a different thought process where with the prime times, I don't think of it as, league money is chump change. Like
Right.
there's legit money involved that, I'm looking like every year. The way I look at it is, because I've had people ask me this question, is I'm looking for 33% of my teams to make the playoffs. That's my goal every year. And then from there, hopefully I have some different combinations and a team gets hot. But the other goal that I have is all the money that I have invested, I want to be as close to in the black as possible when week 15 comes around, because then I look at it as I'm free rolling for those next 3 weeks. So if I'm a little bit in the red, I'm okay with that. If I'm in the black, freaking fantastic. That means I had a really great year. And then hopefully, I can cash some things in some big money leagues, main events, stuff like that. So that's another thing that, I do look at when I'm going into each season.
And you basically told me, I asked you a question because I'm doing the bullet for the first time. About drafting it. You draft it like it's a prime or no. You said you don't really change it. You're going into it, correct?
No, I don't.
All right. Even though there's less, that's I can understand that.
There's less teams. It's still an overall.
Still trying to play to win. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at it this way, Mike. So the silver bullet, right? We're talking about. So it's less teams, but it's still the prize money mostly is towards the overall. You're trying to win the overall money. So when you have that much money coming out of the league prizes, my mentality is the same for, whether it's a small tournament or a big tournament. When it's a confined league and let's say you're drafting a $500, 12 team league or whatever, I'm drafting it the same way as I would draft a $5,000 league, and I'm drafting more conservative. I don't need to take a lot of risk. I don't need to get crazy with my builds. The silver bullet, I look at it as just like an OC,
OC or prime,
or a prime time. Yeah. I still gotta get hot in the shootout in order to win legit money. So that's how I look at it. Whereas, in a confined league, you can make your money. The prize stays in the league itself, right? It's not going anywhere else. So and the threshold's
not that high, where you need as many points you could, as you would to win a tournament.
I don't look at it as like I'm trying to beat hundreds of teams. I look at it as
11 teams.
I need to. My team doesn't even need to be perfect because I just need to make the playoffs in that confined league, and then I'm up against 3 other teams, and anything could happen. You don't have to have this you don't need to have the nuts to win confined leagues.
I think what I had mentioned that to Mike too. I'm a little bit. Prime time. I try to draft balanced teams because the win-loss record, as we know, goes a long way with the points. And I was telling him, when I've approached the bullet, sometimes I throw the win-loss record out because it don't really matter in the bullet. And I sometimes might pull up a Josh Allen just a little bit quicker than I probably would in just try to get the point title in that league if you can draft good players around. That's the only thing difference that I've done in the bullet in the past.
Yeah, and everyone's different, Joey. I wouldn't say that that's the wrong way to think about it.
Right.
For me, when I look at it, I don't necessarily look at it that way. I just look at it as I just want the most explosive team that I can draft that I think is structurally sound and I always have kind of as I'm drafting, I have a plan in place, but I don't look at bye weeks. So that's one thing I don't do. If I take a second quarterback, I might look at the bye week. If it's a tiebreaker and then 2 guys are close or whatever, I might consider that. But otherwise, don't really look at it. I just look at it as like, let me draft the best team possible, and then during the season, I'll manage it. And when we get to, because I look at it as like, I don't know, like, is it trivial to think like, okay, this team looks like it's a team that can score a lot of points versus this team could potentially have a good record, like during the season. I don't know. Like I look at it as like, I don't think of it, that way. I just look at it as like, all right, can this team, fuck shit up in 3 weeks, that in the shootout. If it's got the look of it, then I'm like, all right, fantastic. And then there's other teams when you look at it, you're like, all right, this is more conservative or whatever, but is it like truly explosive team? There is that such thing of like, you can kind of tell based on like the players that were drafted and stuff like that.
Now let me ask you this.
I've won two of them. I've won with Josh Allen early, but I've waited on Tom Brady 1 year in the middle rounds when he went to Tampa. I think his first year. But
we're gonna do this draft. Wait, August. I don't want Nelson to. He's gonna learn so much from Joey. I want to let it go to the end before. Good thing we're not doing it so early. Nelson's listen, stronger after drafting with Joey. I'll tell you that much. He's strong.
Yeah, I mean, look at last year, Joey. Like, I think the teams that won overall titles in the NFFC and FFPC, they had Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. Those were late round quarterbacks. The early round quarterbacks didn't even matter. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. All those guys. Weren't anything special.
Yeah, so, Purdy was awesome down the stretch last year. That's where he scored most of his points.
Also on the waiver wire, Brissett was a real home run too.
Brissett, Danny Dimes to start the year was off the waiver wire. Helped a lot of teams. But then you have a year where it's a few years ago where Joe Burrow was a true difference maker when hooked up with Chase and Higgins. I don't remember if it was both of them or if it was one in Burrow, but they put up some like monster games. They were involved in some shootouts a few years ago, and you basically had to have Joe Burrow. Like he was just head and shoulders above every other quarterback in the shootout.
Billy Wallace won it with those two, didn't he? In the OC.
Yeah, get 106 points from two players.
Yeah, they both like put up 50, right, in the NFFC or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's game over when something like that happens. Yeah. So the way I look at it is that's part of the reason why I'm doing volume and everything, because I can have conviction on certain guys or whatever for the whole year, but like in the shootout, unfortunately, there is the luck factor that comes into play where, we were right all along all season, had a really good regular season. We won some money, we did well, but we can't sniff any overall title because we don't have the right combo of players that really matter, in those 3 weeks.
Yeah. 100% right.
Comment redraft this year. I feel like the best strategy is running back, then pound wide receiver 3 through 7. So many good in that area: Ladd, Smith, Rome, Watson, etc.
Like I said, I think every year there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I can tell you, what my draft preference is, but that doesn't mean that you can't win and do well having different ways to draft it. Like I said, I think you can start running back this year. In the 3rd, 4th round, you're probably going to get 2 solid receivers that can do well. But once you start getting to the 5th, 6th round, that wide receiver 3 gets tricky. Figuring out your flex option gets tricky. So, those two running backs, better carry you in case because like I said, it's very hard to just have the perfect draft where you just don't miss on any of your first, 5-6 picks. You're usually going to have a dud, along the way.
You're 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of times it's the teams that do the best, or the teams when you look at your teams. I didn't really like that draft. It didn't go my way, and it doesn't matter. It could work out the best because the players outperform what you think, what you get on waivers. I mean, it's like you said, anything anyway. There's a method to any way to victory in these leagues. It's not just one, not just one clear path.
It also doesn't end at the draft either.
No.
You can win via the waiver wire. All it takes is one or two key guys that, especially if they were parts of your lineup that you really needed to make it all gel and work. So yeah, so much can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing that, I'll think about like when I'm drafting is I might start off like, let's say 0 running back. And now like, oh, I feel a need that, I got to catch up on running backs. I got to start, hammering running backs. Before you know it, you're punting back your quarterback and your tight end. And it's like, do you even really have like an explosive team? Because you don't have an edge at quarterback. You push that back. And because you were taking so many, running backs. So do you have like, really good quarterback play? What's your tight ends look like? Do you have like, do you have like a Jawan Johnson and whatever,
Greg Dulcich.
Greg. Listen, I like those guys. I like Dulcich this year, but if you've got those two guys, that just doesn't have the same ring to it as like, I got Tyler Warren or I got a Loveland or, maybe like this year, like a Kincaid with Goddard, something like that. I would feel a little bit more comfortable. And then quarterback, it's like, okay, you're doing kind of like a 0 running back, but you need to have an edge somewhere else too. It can't just be receivers. If you're pushing back the running back, you have to look at it as who are the running backs you're comfortable with that can get you out of the gate. Sometimes you got to draft a couple of boring guys that are not all that exciting because you need them. You need to buy time is what I call it. The first few weeks of the season, you can plug and play the guy. J.K. Dobbins comes to mind. Boring guy. But Sean Payton loves him. And if he's healthy week 1, he's getting touches. Aaron Jones, probably the passing down back with the Vikings. Very freaking boring, but he goes super late in drafts. If you've got like a 0 running back team, maybe he's a guy that you draft just to kind of, kick the can down the road, because what you're looking is for your other guys that you took, the young guys with upside, but don't have a clear role. Okay. And then during the season, you're working the waiver wire, trying to stay ahead of the game and picking up a lot of those handcuff running backs. All you need is one guy, tweaks his hammy or, high ankle sprain or whatever. And then boom, you've got the guy on your bench, you're in business. And now you've got this 0 running back team that you built that has, an edge at quarterback, has a good tight end play, really good receivers. It was just, and one of the running backs you're getting by with, but now you've got this one guy that's like, could be a total difference maker.
Right. It's like the Hubbard 2 years ago.
Rico Dowdle for a couple of weeks.
Right. 2 years ago was Hubbard when everybody thought Brooks never played, and Hubbard was just he was like he gave you what you're talking about in production.
Yeah, it's
my live New York OC last year had 0 RB. I didn't plan on it; it just happened that way. And I had Gainwell and Dowdle on it, and those guys for the couple of weeks that they hit, I had them in there. I had you. It's funny, Nelson. You mentioned Aaron Jones. He was the first running back I took, and then he got hurt. I think he got hurt early on, and I thought I was going to be shit out of luck. But that's when Gainwell had a couple of 30-point games. It was like 2 in 3 weeks, and then Rico Dowdle emerged, and like it kind of came together as the season went on, like you described. And I had 4 wide receivers. I ended up taking Rashee Rice in the 6th round. That's how I ended up going a true 0 RB build, because he fell to the 6th, and I didn't want to pay. I took him as my 4th wide receiver. I started the draft with Jamar Chase, and it ended up falling wide receiver all the way through. And that was a great league. The top 3 teams were 0.8 points away from each other, and of course I got the shit end of the stick there. I finished in 3rd. That was a competitive league. I wish we could bring the standings up. I know that I don't think we can go back and look at the standings. I could find the exact total points, but it was legitimately 0.8 points was the difference between 1st and 3rd.
Yeah, it'll take a little while, but I can show you after the show under my historical teams. You can pull it up. It shows the draft also and everything.
You can see the results. You can see the results like that. Okay,
standings and everything. Yeah,
I thought it only showed the rosters.
There's a lot of smart people watching our show tonight, because if you were watching the All-Star game, you saw 3 runs in the 1st inning, and then you just sat there with 3-0. So all those people were fools. This was the place to be tonight.
This was more informative. If you're into fantasy football,
it had a little pizzazz here. 8 innings of no runs.
It's a question for the Gamburglar, because I know he's got that stack.
Oh yeah, Short's
yeah. I mean, the question is who's in the shootout, right? For the Cowboys, who do they face those final 3 weeks?
It's not too hard.
I don't know if you guys look at that stuff.
Oh
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely do. So
They had a good schedule.
Yeah. So you got to look at that kind of stuff, because, again, it's, don't take it, too, overboard on it, but because, injuries happen to defenses and stuff. And then, a defense that was projected to do well is sucky, or vice versa and stuff like that. But we can pretty much, venture to guess that, if you've got a team facing the Texans, the Patriots are, tough with, Gonzalez, and the Texans are tough also with Stingley. So like the Eagles can be tough. Like there's some defenses, Broncos with Surtain. So when you look at the shootout schedule, it's like, all right, my number 1 receiver could be, up against these guys. I can't expect, too big of a game. And then if you've got several teams, facing top legit defenses with low point totals out of Vegas, that's another thing I look at, is like the Vegas totals and stuff. It's like, all right,
you get those Vegas totals right now.
Yeah. So, it's like, this doesn't have too much potential for fireworks. So that also will make a difference in like my way of drafting and certain players that I might gravitate to more than others if, I need a tiebreaker.
Use it as a tiebreaker. Yeah, I was just going to say that. I like that. I do the same thing, but you definitely have to pay attention to the shootout schedule just for that reason alone. I mean, if you're using it as a tiebreaker and you don't do that, and you end up picking the wrong guy, then come week 15, you got yourself in there. And then you look at the schedule and you realize maybe I should consider that going forward. I could definitely see people making that mistake. Not that it's a terrible mistake, because first and foremost you want to win your league. You have to get there first, but it's definitely something you need to be considering when you're competing. When there's 300K at the top and it's a big tournament with a large field. And like you said, Nelson, too, when you have some of your top players that got you there having tough matchups, it's also a good time to consider pivoting, especially with the quarterbacks too. I think it's important that you pivot to the right quarterback in the shootout if you know the guy that got you there is facing Houston at Houston in week 15. I would expect you to not roll them out. Like you got to pivot a little bit based on that. And then if you're talking about the second or the third week of the shootout, especially if you didn't have a great week, maybe you only scored like a 162 or 158 in that range. And you know that there's teams that put up 200, 190, 200s or more, and they're sharing players with you. Now you got to get a little creative because they have that edge on you. They got the 50, 60 points in hand, and they got your guys. So that's something to pay attention to too, as far as pivoting off your top players.
Yeah, I mean, one of the last game of the season in week 17 is the Packers and Texans. So when I'm looking at it, you know, I like Christian Watson a lot this year. But then I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, well, he's facing the Texans week 17. You know, this is the final game of the season. You know, it's kind of nice to have, you know, a player or someone from, you know, from that game, just, you know, especially if you're in contention. But it's like, okay, what's Christian Watson going to do in a game like that if the Texans defense is, you know, completely healthy? Again, it's a long season, things happen or whatever, but, you know, it's definitely something to look at with like the strength of schedule for a lot of these, you know, running backs, receivers, the quarterbacks, you know, things like that. So it's not gospel, but it definitely matters because especially in tournaments, like that's what you're trying to score as many points as possible in that short 3-week window. And if you got teams facing each other and, you know, Broncos and the Rams this year, I think is going to be a really good, you know, stout defense. You know, that's tough sailing for a lot of those players. Sometimes you can get involved in shootouts and in a decent scoring game or whatever, but just something to
say Packers and Texans sounds awful because
I'm glad Texans
none of those teams like to go over 35 passes at times.
Right.
So yeah,
that's something that I do, like what Nelson's talking about. I always look at the Monday night game on week 14 and 17. I'm like, okay, when I'm drafting, I like to kind of have somebody from week 14 in case I'm in contention in the league championship to have at least something going.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 17 game, like I look at those two games just in case you're in the shootout or in case you're in the league championship. I look at that Monday night game on week 14.
In my case, from 3 years ago, you didn't want James Cook in the Monday night game that year.
That was awful. I felt awful. That was bad. You had that one. I mean,
Joe,
that was yours.
Joe, we were talking about this earlier today, the week 14 bye and having, would you say it was Arizona and Dallas?
Dallas and Arizona.
So like the CD Lamb, Trey McBride combo could be a little bit dangerous if you don't have a first place cushion going into week 14, right? And of course that's a possible build. You know, they both go on the same side of the board. You know, so I mean, are you concerned? You have any concerns about combining, having too many guys on bye week in week 14? I mean, I know there's only 2 teams.
Maybe FFPC probably for you guys.
Are you avoiding pairing Lamb with McBride? Like, is that a concern, having 2 guys, two of your top 3 picks on a bye week going into the last week of total points gathering, I guess? You know, if you're competing for first place, you got to do it without your top 2 picks, two of your top 3 picks.
That a question for me or Joey?
Well, me and Joey were talking about it. Yeah, there's a question for you.
You're the main feature here.
So in FFPC, it's definitely a factor,
Right.
because so much is riding on that week for, it's championship week where you're trying to win league money that week there. And you're also, if you're a 3 or 4 seed, you're not guaranteed a ticket into the shootout. But if you're in the championship week that week, then you're hoping to win because it cashes you a ticket in the dance, for the overall, prize there, which is $1 million. So that it's more of a factor there, where NFFC, you're just playing out, the week, it's not it's just another game in the regular season.
Right. Everybody's getting buys. It just falls in week 14. It's
right. But week 14, like, what if you're in a battle for a playoff, for a second place or a first place finish, and it's close, and
yeah, but you don't know that from week 1.
Yeah, you don't know that's gonna
happen.
If
you knew that week 1, that'd be different.
The way to look at it, like, you're not going to avoid, CD and these guys, because it's like, oh, they're week 14. What if I'm in contention and now my Cowboy stack or whatever, is off that whole week or whatever. You can't look at it that way. Your Cowboy stack might be awesome the other 13 weeks, and you've got a huge, 200-point lead, and you don't have to worry about, those guys. I would just look at it more as, okay, if I do a Cowboy stack and I have Dak and I've got CD and I've got, Javonte Williams and Pickens, I need to, at some point as the season goes on, if my team, looks pretty good, I need to start making plans for who's going to be my quarterback in week 14 to replace Dak. I don't want to just have any old quarterback, because what if my backup is facing the Texans defense? That's shitty. I don't want that. So you probably want to look ahead and say, okay, what are the matchups in week 14, when Dak is off? And when you're drafting, have that plan in place of like, okay, I'm going to pair Dak with so-and-so because, they're facing, the Bengals, and it's going to be a shootout or whatever, or something like that.
Makes
sense. There you go. Make sure you're prepared when the time comes.
Also, you're lucky you got Steve there to, when all that fab is, he can handle that, right?
What was Josh's question about fab?
Not sure. How do you handle it though?
How do all the teams? How do you manage all your teams?
You have a software pro. I mean, how do you work it?
No. So I get, during the season, I get very robotic. So I have a process and I follow it and I don't deviate from it. That's why, Michael. So you see in the Discord chat where I'll tell guys like, hey, guy, like Wednesday, it's tough for you to ask me questions because I'm really not going to be in the chat. I'm managing my teams and everything, and I every minute counts, right? So I look at it as like I have time for a pee break. My wife's grabbing me, something to eat, bringing it into the office. I'm in front of my computer. I'm not moving, and
so you do it manually, you're saying? I mean, is it, or do you have a software that's simple that helps
manual,
you?
Manual. Yeah.
Really?
No software. So,
and you're not getting any help from Steve, I'll tell you that much.
I do, obviously NFFC and FFPC, they have, you can set up bid groups and copy them to your teams. I utilize their software that makes things a lot easier. So as I'm going down the list, the bid group is already populated for me on like my targets and the players that I want. And then the onesie, twosie positions, the onesie positions, meaning quarterback, tight end, and if I'm streaming a defense, I will look at that roster, that lineup, and I'll be like, okay, quarterback's not a problem here, move on. oh, I got shitty quarterback play. I need to focus on, finding a diamond in the rough. And then I'll add, maybe I do an extra quarterback bid group. I might say, you know what? My team's pretty good at running back and wide receiver. I don't need this whole bid group of these, handcuff running backs or whatever. My focus needs to be, I got a fixed quarterback. I might just delete the bid group and I only have one drop, let's say on the roster, one guy I really want to get rid of, and I might add a third quarterback on that team. But for the most part, yeah, I create, long bid groups with all the running backs, wide receivers I want to acquire, all the defenses. I'll do separate bid groups and copy them to all my teams for defenses. But for the most part, I'm going to have Rams or Patriots this year for my defense. And that's pretty much it. It's going to be one of those two. If not, then I'm going to stream, and I'm pushing it back. I'll probably grab like the Jaguars because I believe they take on the Browns week 1. I like the Chargers. I believe they're at home against Arizona. So like those are like two defenses that come off the top of my head that if I'm in a draft like tonight or whatever, if I can't get the Rams or the Patriots, then, I kind of gravitate to those, good matchups week 1. And then I stream all year long. But typically my strategy is I find one or two defenses that I really like this year, and I draft them on every team if I can, and I just ride them the whole year. And this year, those are my two defenses that I like.
You were solid last year to help me, Red. Round 20, I took the Patriots. You were taking the Patriots last year. I took the Patriots default 20th round, and it worked like I didn't have to. Didn't have to worry about it.
Me and Nelson are the only ones that consistently take the Patriots every year. I think.
It's a little bit of a homer pick, but at the same time, it's listen, it's not like I'm sitting there taking some crappy defense. They have playmakers on defense, and more so than even last year, I actually expect their offense to take a step up and go to the next level. And I actually like defenses that have good offenses, because the way I look at it is, even if that defense is not necessarily like incredible on paper, if the offense is scoring points, usually the other team in the second half is trying to play catch up, and it means they're throwing the ball rather than running the ball. That means my defense now is pinning their ears back.
Right.
It's opportunities for sacks. It's opportunities for interceptions. It's opportunities for sack fumbles. So whereas like if you take a defense that, the other team is running the ball in the second half, you have opportunities for a strip fumble, and that's it. Like there's less for interceptions and big plays in the game. So that's one thing that I take into consideration. I think the Patriots and Rams have really good offenses this year.
Last year I liked it in New England because I could.
Plus, I
didn't have to reach for defense, rounds 13, 14, whatever it takes, and it just frees.
And they're playing the Jets and Dolphins.
That's what they're saying. Get Geno Smith twice and Malik Willis twice.
You get that running back or whatever, wide receiver, whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the defense at that point.
Yeah, for sure. So, once the season starts, like my process starts on Monday. If you guys want me to walk you through it, it's kind of boring, but some of you guys might find it interesting. But so
I'm sure everybody that plays high stakes would find it interesting.
Okay, so like my process is this: once the football or draft season starts, my wife is a saint, very understanding. She knows that like football season is, means a lot to me. There's a lot of money invested in everything. So, and she's gotten a lot of like nice trips and vacations out of it and stuff like that on the successful years. So she understands it. She gets it. I even have a sign that says like, it's got a football and it says this marriage.
I've seen it.
I forget what it says. It's something like
Starter.
Yeah,
I remember you showing it.
Hold on. Let me go.
I've seen it on Twitter or something. He's posted it before.
All right.
There it is, Joe.
What's he got? Oh, sorry, I was reading the
You
text.
can read that.
We interrupt this marriage for football season.
See, Josh, now you know how to do it with your wife.
She got me that.
Josh
Right?
said, Joe, pull up what Josh said.
Yeah, so she got me that. So on Sunday, I'm watching all the games, and there's a lot of stuff in the games on Sunday that I might miss or whatever, or I want to rewatch a game. So Monday, that's what I'm doing all day. I rewatch a lot of the games from Sunday, especially particular ones that I feel like I didn't catch enough of. I want to, I'm more of, I definitely look at like snap counts and stuff like that, but I'm less, stats focused and more just film. What do my eyes tell me? What did I see?
Right.
Was the running back releasing out of the backfield? Maybe they O-line just didn't block well for the guy. So like that might be a stat that you might not pick up on, where it's like you look at the guy and you're like, oh damn, 10 carries for 26 yards. Like, okay, this guy sucks, or he had a shitty day. But when you like look at it, it's like, oh well, the left guard and the center, left in the first quarter. They had injuries and they brought in, backup O linemen, and that's all she wrote. He had no running room, stuff like that. So I look at that on Monday, and then that I formulate a target list at that point of like players of interest for me. And then on Tuesday is when I start kind of, getting a feel for like who the public likes for players. And it's not for me having a lack of an opinion. I need to know what the public is digesting out there, like on Twitter, XM radio, podcasts, whatever it is, because I want to get a temperature of, okay, what they keep talking about this player. He's kind of a player of interest for me. What kind of dollar amount do I think people are going to spend on this guy? Because, there's a lot of talk about him. Or I might not hear anything about a guy that I like. And I'm like, you know what? This guy, hopefully, news stays, under the radar, and I can get this guy for a couple of bucks on Wednesday and sneak him by. And then Tuesday, that's when I put together my fab article for everyone. And, for the most part, I follow it, pretty much to a T. I'd like to think that I'm pretty genuine with the fab article, that, I'm telling you guys the truth on, what I think of players and what I'm going to do for my own teams. Sometimes on Wednesday, it might be like, late, at night, where I might just change my mind on a player or something like that and make a quick adjustment. And it's just too late really to, update anybody on it, or it's not that big of a factor. Team specific, if I might not necessarily like a running back too much. Let's say I put a bid range of like 30 to 60 bucks, but I run into a team where I'm like, oh shit, I'm hurting at running back. I've got nobody on this team. You know what? I really need to get this guy. Instead of the 30 to 60 buck range, I'm going to go 80 bucks or something like that on this guy. That might happen. So that's pretty much my process. Like, and I start already on Tuesday with fab. And on Tuesday, it's basically, I'm taking care of all my kickers, defense, stuff like that, and building my bid groups that I'm going to copy to all my teams. Wednesday morning, I get up early in the morning, and that's when I start putting dollar amounts, and I have a pretty good feel. I like to sleep on it and then get a really good feel for it. And I'll update my Fab article first with prices. Like especially if I change my mind on guys, and then I get to work on my teams, and I really don't move from what I'm doing, the rest of the day.
Yeah, your Fab article is fantastic.
There's sometimes too, like where
perfect. Nobody's perfect, but also what I added, what you just said, if you put a guy that's, I want a guy, I like a guy, and it's like 60's the high, and I just know feeling with other guys, I might have to boost it up 20, 25 to get him if I really want him, because you got to take, you got to take that into consideration.
Because I'm giving you guys a range.
And the guys we play with.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There's times where like guys will ask me, subscribers will ask me in the Discord, like, Nelson, like this is the shiny new toy. Everyone is talking about this guy, and you've got him like third on your list, and you've got him for like $50. Like, what gives? He's going to go triple digits. I just value the guy at $50. Right. I know that the public is in on this guy, and I know it's going to take triple digits to acquire him, but I'm not going to give you guys that bid and have you guys waste $100-something or $200 on a guy that I don't think is worth it. So part of my Fab article is not necessarily I'm putting a price based on what I think the public's going to bid on him. It's what I think the guy's worth.
I'll tell you something too, in my opinion too. I think, especially after maybe the first couple of weeks, let's some blow up out. I think, especially Nelson, as much teams he does, he probably keeps up with it. But I think you got to learn the Fab room that you're in as much as your draft room. Okay, is these other 11 guys going to be aggressive, or are they cheap spenders? I mean, I think that plays a little bit.
You got to look and see if they need, if you got to see what their team needs are too. You got to look is it if there's a tight end that you like that you're going to bid on that's been getting 6 or 7 targets for a couple of weeks in a row now, and you need to address your tight end room. You look at the roster grid and see which teams might be in a similar situation. See what they have for Fab money. All of that factors in. Another thing that I want to mention when it comes to deciding on exactly when to get aggressive when you're making your bids is, for me, generally it's if the guy's going directly into my lineup, then I'm bidding up to get him. If it's just a stash piece or a depth piece, then I'm not going to necessarily get overly aggressive with it, unless, of course, I look and see that there's 3 or 4 other teams that really need this guy, and for some reason I'm still big on him and I want him. So I have the Fab to spend, I'll spend up. But generally for me, it's if a guy's going in my lineup, I'm bidding up for him, and otherwise I'll go with the normal bid, or I'll try to look for the under the radar cheap play that you almost the guy that you want to get a week or 2 ahead of time. If you have room for him, I like to leave one spot on the roster where I'm continuously recycling.
That's a good thought process too, Joe. That's good advice. And then the other thing that I would add, it takes a few weeks into the season, unless you have notes on guys that you've competed with through the years, which I'm not going to necessarily deny or that I don't have that. I have notes on guys on like their tendencies when they bid. So a few weeks into the season, look back at preseason, week 1, week 2, and look at what guys are bidding. Sometimes guys get in a rut where they keep bidding like a certain dollar amount, or they keep ending their bid
with the
like
same number. With the same number, yeah.
Okay, it's 58, 68, 78. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of like, okay, I value this guy at this price. I think he's going to go for around this range. But like, okay, if I think he's like belongs in the 80s, maybe you go like 91, 92, because this guy is like 88, 88. Like that's kind of like his number. So you guys have like a tell. It's like in poker, right? So you can pick up, little things, little tendencies on your opponents after a few weeks, and then that helps you in potentially outbidding them, and you don't have to break the bank to get them. You can just snipe these guys by a few bucks.
Yep, absolutely. That's awesome advice too, Nelson. I was going to mention, I play poker, so I have. I'm not even going to say may or may not. I have notes on the way people bid, the ending of the number, everything, the tendencies. People, some guys are good at mixing it up. Like I'll try to mix it up. Like 1 week I'll end in eights. The next week I'll be like, I ended in eights last week. There's no way I can end it in an eight this time. Like you mentioned, you gotta keep them on their toes. You gotta mix it up a little bit, because we're all, one thing about us is we're all meticulous. We're all what's another word I was just had in my mind. We're all attention to detail. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that we all have in common. Us high stakes players, we develop great habits, and we have ridiculous attention to detail, and we're really meticulous. So there's no doubt in my mind people are paying attention to that, and so you definitely want to mix it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dan, Josh, I hope that answers your fab question. They were mentioning that to me the other night on when they finished their show. They were like, "You got to ask Nelson about how he does his fab."
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, like
you're all day. You're basically all day when Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't do anything unique. Like Michael asked about, software and stuff like that. I don't have anything. It's all manual, but I'm utilizing what the contests have for software, which makes it easier to populate those bid groups, for all my teams. But then each individual team, I'm going in and I'm setting, the dollar amount, for those teams, and that's it. It's tedious. It's time consuming. It can even get boring, doing it with doing so many teams. But I've gotten so used to it and managing, hundreds of teams during the season that's the part I'm saying it becomes a little bit robotic, and you really have to be a unique person to want to be able to spend that kind of time, just kind of repeating the same thing. It's just Groundhog Day. But I don't mind. Like, I enjoy this, so I don't mind doing it.
Do you?
Let me ask you a question. You basically, in this, as we go on in the season, you got, say, I don't know, say 50 teams, and you got 5 teams that are really doing well. Do you prioritize those 5 to start, in terms to start, basically as we're getting halfway, moving through the season, you got 5 teams that are really sticking out ahead of the pack. Do you make sure those teams get, the first intention, or not really?
Good question. So at the start of the season, no, they right. all stay numbered and they're sorted, the way I had them to start the year. But as the season goes on, I'm going to have shitty teams. It is what it is. I'm going to have teams that are in the cellar, and I'm going to move those teams down, and I'm going to move, the teams that are in contention for league money up top, and then yes, like they get more priority over the other teams. But I don't give up on. It's got to be late in the year. It's got to be like week 12, 13, 14.
Well, I'm not saying give up, but I'm saying you're
Yeah.
You're looking at the.
But I'm still grinding. The whole year, even my shitty teams,
Right.
until like real late in the season. But yeah, I do adjust it and then and go from there. But
Right.
I mean, honestly, sometimes I'll change it up where I'll start the week where I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm ahead of schedule. I feel like there's not a lot of news that's going to change too much on Wednesday. And I'll start my fab process on Tuesday night, and I'll do all my lower teams first and get them out of the way. And then on Wednesday, with fresh information, everything, I've saved like my good teams for last because I'm putting more focus on them right up until the deadline. And I've just been doing this long enough that I know I'm never running out of time. I pace myself knowing how much time I need per team, which is typically 2.5 minutes is what I need per team to be able to, once the big group is down, is inputted. Okay. So it's already created. And then on Wednesday, I need 2.5 minutes per team. And that's how many teams I can get through in however many hours. So I do calculate that times however many teams, and then I know what time I need to start. I might wake up 4 a.m. and say, okay, I need to get started at 4 a.m. on Wednesday to get through these teams. I might need to wake up 7 a.m. to get started on all these teams. But I use that formula because I know I can get through my teams within 2.5 minutes.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you something else too. Somebody like Nelson, he could probably, and a lot of people don't even attempt it, but man can steal a lot of players on the Saturday night run. I don't think as many people is involved in Fab on the weekend. There's not.
Right.
I know if you can get by Wednesday without having to add anybody, you can save so much money on Saturday.
So we call it the Saturday night bargain bin. Yeah.
I mean, there's not many things bidding.
Listen, again, other than like during the season, like I won't go to all my son's games because he's got some away games that are far away in college, but I'll watch it on stream or whatever. But then after on Saturday, all I'm doing is I'm going through the bargain bin and looking at my teams, looking at players. Maybe something changed. There was a little bit of news on Friday, Saturday that is interesting, and now I want to try to get this guy for a couple of bucks and sneak him through. A lot of people have a normal life and they're not, crazy like me. So they're out and about, they're, having drinks, having dinner or whatever. I'm grinding, my teams, and that's, I think, what makes a guy like Chad Schroeder really good at this, because that's what he does. He grinds, all day Saturday into Sunday morning. Last year, just to give you an example, because I had cut back last year, I wanted to take a little bit of a break. So I had the least amount of teams I've had in quite some time last year. So I ended up getting with Chad, and he asked me to help him. So he cut me in on his teams, gave me a percentage to help him with his teams. And we would be going on Saturday from, pretty much all day Saturday right into Sunday morning. There's been, because FFPC, they run their fab on Sunday morning.
They do have a Sunday morning.
So we'll be done. NFFC 10:15, their fab runs. We go and look and we say, okay, is anybody in on the guys that we're trying to pick up? all right, we go through some teams. Now it looks like, we got them, with no runner-up bids. Nobody was interested in them. Now we go to FFPC and we were doing the same thing. And now we got to, update those teams. We would go till 3 a.m. and then just get a couple hours of sleep, wake up, and start setting lineups. I'm answering questions, in the Discord at FTN and, and setting lineups. Like it just, it's a little bit of a machine,
And in between, you got a masseuse on retainer. So, it's
exactly.
I think you sitting in the chair, you probably need one.
100%. I swear by, I got a chiropractor and I got massage therapy.
No question.
I do cupping also, so I do all that. So I definitely try to keep my my health and everything, my body.
Otherwise, how you need to do it?
You
have to have that.
100%. I do all of that, but Saturdays that matters because a lot of guys are just not into it. They're not really doing much on Saturday. You can get away with some things. There's sometimes I galaxy brain it, trust me, because I'm trying to remember who the guy was last year that I wanted to get. I think it was Taysom Hill. He was coming back off the IR and he was tight end eligible, and I galaxy brained that one and went and picked him up on all my teams, and that was some work going through on Saturday and doing that because I wanted to pick him up the week prior before they activate him, and then maybe everybody's interested in him. So I was doing that, and that was a waste of hours of doing that because obviously he never became anything there.
I know I've been on like Saturday night. You might see after bids are maybe like 3 or 4 teams only bid, or sometimes less than that.
You know what happens, Joel? If they got their guy on Wednesday, they usually take the Saturday off. That's one of the thing I noticed. Or like Nelson said, people just don't pay that much attention to it. But that's what you got to. It's the only people that's usually in there are the ones that missed out on their guy on Wednesday, or guys like us sickos that know that's where you can scoop
Saturday.
You can scoop some of the guys a week ahead. Like Nelson said, you could get some news on Friday about a player possibly being a game time decision, and now you can go in and maybe this player that's a game time decision, the injury turns out to be more serious. You go in on Saturday night, you pick up his backup or whoever's going to be the beneficiary of this guy missing time. Then all of a sudden, this guy's out for a couple of weeks, and you got him for a handful of dollars on Saturday night. Now Wednesday night, the following week, he's going for $200-300. So that's how important the Saturday night is.
Yeah, it can matter. There's been times through the years that I can say I've picked up, a guy that was like a difference maker on Saturday while everyone else, was out enjoying themselves and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not mocking it. I'm actually, so I don't want anyone to take offense to it. I'm more mocking myself because it's like, I'm not the one that's out there going and enjoying myself. I'm stuck behind the computer.
They're looking at you like you got 3 heads, right? What's he?
Yeah.
This guy's doing this, really?
Yeah.
3.
But it's the life I chose that heavily invested in this. You're talking about well over 6 figures every year. I can't afford to just be like, oh, I'm going to take a week off or whatever. Can't do it.
And it's not like you're not having fun. You're doing your fantasy football thing, and your wife's bringing you treats.
100%. Like I said, my wife is very understanding. I have nothing bad to say because most wives wouldn't. It wouldn't register with them. It just wouldn't compute. They'd be like, no. Like that's not happening. And I get it. Like, but she's gotten used to it, over the years and stuff like that. And then when I do have time, I try to make it count. We go enjoy ourselves, go out and everything. But, right now the biggest thing, like I said, is it's, fantasy football, and then, enjoying my kids, watching them, grow up, play sports and stuff like that. I was always a sports kid, growing up. So, I really enjoy that, everything, like pretty much every sport. So
that's just like the NFFC and all of us here, the money's great, but, from playing sports back in the day, I thought competition and competing just to see how I can do. I mean, that's what I love about it most of all.
That's the biggest thing for me too, is I enjoy, obviously chasing the money and everything, but I have, my wife says, and she's accepted it. She's like, you have a problem. You have a competition problem. Like you have to be competitive in everything we do. When we were younger, we would play when my kids were younger, we would play board games as a family. And I'm not the type of dad where I'd be like, oh, okay, like I'm just going to let them win or whatever. I'm trying to win the game. I don't care about my wife or my kids. I'm trying to beat them. And everything I do, that's how I am. So that's the thing with like fantasy football. I can't play sports at a high level, at a competitive level like I used to in my 20s. So in my teens, so I look at it as like fantasy football it feeds that fire that I have in me to compete for something.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Especially the NFC. Really. I mean, I play the other platform. I think you told me you're like 85% NFC post to FFPC last year. Is that the breakdown basically for you? I mean, with Steve, maybe you've gone up now.
This year, not the case. No. Yeah, no. With Steve, we're probably, we're playing big numbers at both places. So,
right.
Again, with the prime time, there's a lot less prime times than main events at FFPC. So we're going to be at whatever the max is, which I think is 60 for an owner, the most they can have. At FFPC, we're going to have 120 main events there.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to be playing big volume, and again, I prefer the price structure of NFFC over FFPC, but FFPC's got $1 million first place prize, and that's something. So that, so we definitely want to be in it and competing over there.
And he's played that for a while heavily.
Yeah. He's more familiar with the FFPC than NFFC.
Right.
I play mostly NFFC because we're like me and you're like the total off. You're high and I'm the low volume guy. So there's no way I could probably compete in FFPC. I mean, I can do all right in the league, try to, but as far as competing against these teams that's got hundreds of teams, that's the reason why I just choose NFFC. Plus, I like everybody who plays in it. And I'm more comfortable in the NFFC.
And that's what I tell people is you choose the format. You can play both formats, but if you prefer one to the other and you feel like you're more comfortable drafting and your teams are more competitive, in one format over the other, then do that, because you got to look at your ROI also at the same time. But, if you want to take a shot, like a big gorilla is 350 over there for $1 million. You never know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you got to at least put your hat in the ring, at least one team, and you do it like closer to the season. Don't do it right now, right? Wait till late August.
Especially with FFPC, right? Because it's soft.
F-
It is softer competition.
I,
FFPC.
I think it's more players, more teams, and I think it's softer for that reason compared to NFFC. Because
and if guys like you, let me ask you a question. If guys, good players, I would say, but the difference is I think it's a distinct advantage if you get 1, 2, 3, or 4 because no third round reversal. Guys that are really good can really take advantage, in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah,
because of that.
The most tricky part about FFPC is knowing when to fire off tight end, because it's 1.5 points per reception over there for tight end. And it matters. Like, you can't just have like a shitty tight end. You can pick up a tight end off waivers, or you could have drafted one in the teens that ends up being, pretty good, like a Jawan Johnson,
right.
Dalton Schultz. Those are some tight ends that come to mind that were, last year that were pretty decent, and you'll be okay. But you're not going to be competitive over there having like a 0 at tight end. Like, you have to have a tight end, whether you got him early, you got him late, or off waivers. You got to have a tight end that's good. Like, you can't be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Also, I look at it. You can't play. I draft different because it's easier for guys because they can play 4 running backs. So if you can't, I don't play hero or 0 running back. A lot of maybe hero, but it's tough to play 0 running back because guys will just take 4 straight, and that can work there because they can play
work over there. And
in terms.
Yeah, and then what's different from the NFFC is you're going to have guys like tight ends go much earlier over there, and guys will draft multiple tight ends within like the first 8 rounds. You could see a team where
I've seen sucker plays guys draft 3 tight ends in the first 4 picks. And I just laugh at those guys.
Cleveland's got one team that's got about
they
all
can do it.
tight ends on it.
They can do it, but it normally fails.
It normally fails, and because those tight ends have to be like top 5 tight ends.
They've got so much in a running back and wide receiver, which is still
yeah.
I mean, they're falling for this. That's what they do. But you're right about that. It's just I can't draft the same way. If you go, I don't know if Steve. He showed me a couple of his teams. I don't think he's so Mr. Yellow and knows as much as he is in the NFC, where it makes more sense. You can't.
Wide receivers drop a little bit over there.
Yeah, you don't have. You got to get that tight end early. Earlier. A Warren or I don't know. There's a Warren. I'll take earlier. Because you can't do that in the NFC though.
I think Kyle Pitts would be my target in the FFPC just because he goes a little bit later than the Warrens and the Bowers and the McBrides.
Yeah, you want to take. Yeah, that's a good point, Nelson. The tight end is you want to
maybe down to Harold Fanning might be.
You're not chasing it.
Just somebody like that.
Nice. This might be. We're coming up on the longest show. The longest days is up. It's approaching.
I got to take it for a late night walk. I'll tell you what, the dogs. He's definitely he's the number 1 dog in Philly. I dumped the girlfriend. The best thing I said, I got the dog, and he breaks it. He's a chick magnet.
Charlie.
But,
nice.
Yeah, I mean it's. You have a dog, Nelson, right? I've seen the dog.
I have two German shepherds.
Yeah, bigger dogs. I got a little Cavapoo.
Yeah.
who gets all the attention in the city. He takes, but you know what? The funny thing is, he sees when Steve calls, he gets all crazy. He sees that I saw the phone, he gets all pumped up. Not just kidding.
He gave us one of the funniest podcast moments we've had too. Did you happen to see that at all, Nelson? It was
brought the dog on.
No, we were doing one show. No, not Steve. Gamberg. We were doing a show on Steve D'Angelo's channel, and Mike, he closed his camera, but he didn't turn his audio off.
It's not even up.
And he went, and I think he was getting the dog a treat or something, and all of a sudden you can hear in the background, you hear, "Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss." Right? So I'm already starting to hold, like I'm already trying to hold back my my laughing, and I think Joey Brown was talking about something. I forget.
We got
and then Joey stopped,
boosted on that show. Joey
stopped saying what he was saying, and there was a brief moment, like there was like a 1.5 second of silence, and you hear Mike go, "I deserve a kiss." Yo.
I mean, I sit in a particular spot on the sofa. He's got a little sofa on the sofa, right?
We'll have to send it to you.
Like he goes sleep. He goes to my spot. He's too smart for his own good.
Yeah,
he's too smart for his own good.
That was so funny because you didn't even know the audio was on. We're gonna do a segment on Monday night when we do our Monday night fantasy reaction show during the season. We're gonna have Mike's a player that deserves a kiss based on their weekend performance.
Nice.
We'll dig up that sound bite where he goes, "I deserve a kiss."
Nice.
Might get a sponsor from Hershey with Hershey's Kissing. We could maybe get Hershey will sponsor.
Yeah, we can make that work.
There you go. If you're in Philly, man, make it happen.
Right.
Nice.
So what other questions did you guys have for me?
I think we touched on most of them.
We exhausted most of it.
Yeah.
And then some.
We got the entries thing, the volume question. And we didn't really want to go on specific players on your lists, but we did ask you. I did ask you about the situations that I wanted to. You guys have any running back rooms or wide receiver battles, depth chart battles you want to ask Nelson before we let him?
I'm a subscriber. I get it all.
He's got everything already.
Nelson, you got to be a subscriber. I would tell anybody it's.
So I should subscribe.
Nelson, you got a lot of good players subscribed, and believe me, I see them in the Discord. I'm not going to say the names, but.
Well, yeah.
Nelson's a must follow.
Iron sharpens iron. You know that.
Yeah, I have a lot of guys that they do competitive home leagues, for decent money that subscribe to me. But I have a bunch of high stakes players also.
And you'll answer those questions too. Nelson will answer. You answer every question. That matters work that I can't believe matters work. If you do it, Fab, and you're answering questions, taking lineup decisions, what have you.
I pride myself on no question goes unanswered, and I try to answer
110% every week.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is what I see, look. Nelson will give you great information. His strategy, you watch it, but you still have the key is that I look at. I still have to put in my own ideas. I'm never going to be able to copy anybody straight through. Right. You're not going to be able to do it. You have to have your own ideas and thoughts and strategy. Otherwise, if you're going to be a successful player.
You have to execute.
You have to have
it in the high stakes rooms. Yeah,
people just can't copy. Well, Nelson, did you? You got to have some of your own thoughts.
And that's happened through the years where every once in a while you get a couple of guys that they literally want you to do the work for them. And it's like, listen, first, I know it's pricey. It's a $1.99, for the subscription. So, it's not small, money, but what you're asking me to do is basically manage your team. At this point, like, we might as well be partners. Give me a percentage of the team, because
Right.
like, guys they'll put out their whole roster and they're like, Nelson, set my lineup. I'm like, well, that's the lazy way out. Like,
Right.
I need you guys, putting some thought into it. And
The goal is for them to become a better player, not for you to run their team. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I try to instill that in them, is that, listen, I'm not here, to set your whole lineup for you. First of all, there's like 5-6 guys that are not even in consideration, in the starting lineup. So why are you even listing them? That type of thing. So that happens once in a while. So I know guys like Michael and some other, experienced guys, they look at they come into the chat and they're like, rolling their eyes, like, come on, what kind of question is this?
Like, but you know what? You want lineup decision. Just give them, you know what it is. You just type it in. This guy or this guy. It's simple. Don't give it so a long exaggerated.
It's usually you got to look at your team and say, all right, it comes down to these 2 or 3 players that have a legit shot at making my flex, that are in the conversation this week, and that's it. So I try to get them to think that way, but there's definitely people out there that they need like a lot of help, where they're in a few local leagues or whatever. They're they've struggled through the years. They want to compete. They told me, hey, you're the guy, Nelson, to come to. So I want to live up to expectations, but at the same time, it's like, I try to cater as much and the best of my ability to like every level of type of player. So, but I get everything from like.
And one thing I told Nelson in the beginning, I said, look, I'll never criticize you or blame you for why'd you do this or that, because I'm a big boy. We make the choices. That's the bottom line. Some people, you see it elsewhere or what have you. They start blaming the guy that's on the what have you. I've seen it happen all the time. You might have gotten it. I don't know if people, I don't see much of it.
I've gotten it.
We're big boys.
Through the years,
you like this guy? I don't have to draft that guy. I made the pick. I got to have ownership.
There's been times where Joey would call me and ask me who would I start, and I give him the answer, and then he doesn't tell me what I don't know what he does. The right move too. And then the game will happen, and I'll be like, "Fuck! I think I just killed Joey's week." And I'd text him, "You didn't put him in, did you?" And nah, I went with the other guy. I'm like, "Okay, good." And it's been occasions where that's happened. So
I'll tell you something too. Going back, like I said, when I first actually Nelson meshed in the in World Championship Fantasy Football on a message board. But now, people jumping in high stakes, well, I'm a perfect example for this topic, is the 350 was what I consider my prime time, my main event to me, because I never had the funds at the time, never had the money to be able to play what we play now. And I learned a lot from him, from roster construction, but I never copied him, because sometimes I might veer out on my own. Okay, I want this player real bad. If I get stuck on a player, I want him all the time. But I built myself up, and like I said, I had all them years of Scout Pro. I got so close all the time, and I cannot remember the name of the other one that you went to that we talked about. But the players, you put me on players. And the biggest win I ever had was a consolation win in 18, because you all liked Christian McCaffrey. I took him in second round of that year, and I won the 5K on the OC consolation. But from then on, what I'm saying, it takes time to build a high stakes mindset. You don't become decent overnight. You can watch, like Nelson can teach you, but it still takes time to get to.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning.
where
You're
you're
right.
at.
There's a
I mean,
learning
it's
curve.
just-
Yeah, I tell people, you've got the subscription to me, but it's more about like watching all the live streams and getting a feel for like where players are getting drafted, how I'm building teams. So you can take all my draft boards and then between my cheat sheet, my fade list, my targets list, all that stuff, you can put that together and you can get a pretty good idea of like how to put a team together, the players I like, the players I don't like, and you can be competitive just off of that. But that's only one piece of it.
That's how I learned from your live stream. I just stumbled upon it. I got addicted. You were the only guy really doing it. I mean, I remember you had Vlad on one. This was years ago when you had but you were really running it solo.
Yeah.
A lot of times watch it. I can memorize the boards basically. And one other thing is I stick with, like you said, with that. I don't overload myself with other people's information. I don't think that's the problem I used to run into. You're listening to this. You just got to I played mostly NFC. That's what that's what you focus basically. You draft a lot. I watch the drafts. Until this year, you're doing, obviously with Steve, you're doing a lot of FFPC. That's all I need. I don't want to say with this guy, in terms great. I'll listen, but I got to focus on what you're doing because what your information is strictly, a lot of it's for NFC.
Yeah, and this advice that
you
I've
put your money where your mouth is too when you on players.
For sure, yeah.
You draft
so this advice that I've given to people through the years, it's not advice like say like, hey, follow me. It's more of just in general, like listen, I might not be your cup of tea. Like you might not like how I draft teams. You might not like how I talk. You might not like how I process things or whatever, or whatever it is. You might listen to somebody else. But the key to like being good at fantasy is going into a season is not listen to too many people.
Right.
Because what ends up there's a lot of fantasy information out there more than ever before. And
absolutely.
And people are always popping up like everywhere. If you follow too many guys on Twitter, they're always putting out free stuff out there or whatever. It becomes system overload, and some of the information is just not good information. And what happens is it confuses you as a player more than anything. So the one advice that I can give you is it doesn't have to be me. You don't have to listen to me.
But if you want high stake, you're really the only game in town, I find.
But
doing content, I don't think anybody I'm glad to see you did a thing with Theo, and Theo's real good. I'm glad to see he's back because that's where I found you.
He would be the other guy that I consider, high stakes player.
Trying to develop it, but you're the only guy that currently has it, years of experience and years of putting it out. Basically.
Yeah. So I look at it as like you want to listen to like pick 2 or 3 guys that you think are really sharp and you filter through their information and you just go with that. Or you pick one guy. But what you don't want to be careful, consuming so much information that if you don't know how to filter through that information and block out some of the noise, like some of us, we're just fantasy guys. We enjoy, any type of podcast and we want to listen to, people, what they got to say. Make sure that you're good at filtering through it, because you have one guy that's going to be high on X player. The next guy that you listen to doesn't like X player and gives you all the narratives and everything that is shitty about that player. And then you go to the next guy and like, it's a different story. So like, you can put it together if piece it together and say, okay, between these guys, they're on this player, I probably should be, gravitating to this player. But I think a lot of people get confused with that stuff. And I've had that through the years where I tell people they'll come into, my Discord chat and they'll DM me, private message me or whatever, or ask me, on the public chat for high stakes, where they'll be like, hey, so-and-so likes this player. Why don't you like this player? And it's like, listen, like I can't physically like answer every time, you're listening to this guy and I'm not taking offense to it. It's just, you're asking me a question of like, why am I right?
What is he using you for that? If you're just gonna take that and go to another guy, that's why I call you the Scotty Shepherd. Look, you're good on most of them. Last couple of years, I could think of 2 things, and you had good answers, and I didn't blame. It was good. It was good. Good information behind it, backing it. I mean, last year you didn't like JSN.
Yeah,
and you gave a good story for it about Dar. The year before, I kind of didn't play Chase because you were worried about Burrow's wrist, whatever. So I slighted off. But that's you make a good case for it, and that's what nobody's going to be perfect.
Yeah, who trusts the Sam Darnold? You're
going to win most of the battles.
I will say this, Michael. Part of my argument with JSN was that he wasn't seeing a full complement of snaps, and that was the case, and the fucker still got it done. So like I was wrong, but like I was right on the fact that like the dude got it done with like less than 80. I think it was less than 80% snaps that he.
Yeah, I told Joe. I said, look, I didn't realize we knew Cup was coming in. He really only played slot the year before. And until I watched I said, I didn't realize this guy was this good. He's just that. I didn't, that's going to happen. And you thought, rightfully so, Darnold faded late with Minnesota. Who knew he was going to come in and look like, like Dan Marino? Yeah. I mean, with him. So that happens. Nobody's going to be perfect. Like I said, Shepard, he don't win it. He gets more top 5. When he comes in second, it's a bad week. And that's what you're consistent. But nobody's going to be perfect, and they expect you to be perfect. Then they're a little clueless.
The only thing that you can keep good is the process. If the process, if you trust the process and the result doesn't work out because of the reason, like you said, like the snap share was there, all the warning signs and the red flags happened, yet he still found a way to get it done. So it's kind of an outlier. As far as your process goes, your process was right, but the result was just a little bit off.
I thought the player was talented. I just felt like, I don't like a wide receiver that's not playing as many snaps as I projected him to play. I didn't have a high opinion of Darnold. So you put it all together. I was just kind of like, all right, for the price, he was going
in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like early third round.
Yeah, I'm gonna get stuff wrong when I'm putting out a fade list, and the guys that I'm listing on there, they're not guys that go like in the 10th round, 12th round. No. I'm listing guys in the first few rounds.
Yeah.
That I think are
you don't want to pay for. You don't want to pay for. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the guys that I think can make or break your season. More so, like anybody can say, like, hey, I don't like Chris Rodriguez in the 11th round. Well, no shit. Like, there's a pretty good chance you're probably going to be right that if you faded him, he's not going to be a difference maker. You know what I'm saying? But now tell me a guy that you're fading in the second round. Now I'm impressed, so you're going to, the saying is you're going to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. So I'm going to get some stuff wrong for sure.
Everybody does.
But that's my advice to people is that, if you subscribe to me, I'm going to give you advice on what I would do for my own teams, and that's how I'm processing it. Like my thinking is, I'm telling you what I would do with my own teams because I play, you know, a high volume and for a lot of money. So I have a unique perspective in that way. There's some analysts out there that they play in a couple of like industry leagues, but they don't really play on any like, really big high dollar leagues or anything like that. So,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
don't put much. They don't put it. You put your money on the table. You're not. It's you put
I'm
your
not
money
taking
in your
anything
mouth.
away from those guys because I think there's a lot of smart analysts out there that put out good information, but they're not, they're not out there playing the volume that I am. And I'm giving you the advice based on what I would do for my teams. And over the years, the big sample size, I've won more than I've lost. So that's
And that's
kind
on
of my
record. I mean, you've
that's
got.
my selling point
People know that.
to people is that, you know, I'm not gonna give you the advice that I think you want to hear. I'm not going to give you the safe advice and take the easy way out. I'm just going to tell you what I would, if it was my team, this is what I would do.
Yeah, a lot of it's common sense. I remember I couldn't, and I went with my own, in terms. I just didn't understand last year, and I told you this. Why is Rice going in the second or third round? I knew before it happened. Anybody that had a brain, you knew he was going to be suspended minimum. It was a 6-game deal.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't beat the competition going in when this guy's missing my second or third round picks missing, it's 6 games. It didn't make any sense. And I only took him once because it was 6th round and I couldn't believe he was there with the team I got. But those teams just went down the shitter. It was just, I couldn't understand. A lot of smart guys took him there now. Sometimes you just have to, it just didn't add up. It just didn't make sense.
And if you remember, Michael, so like Rice was a fade for me all summer long because I didn't like his price. I didn't understand it, why he was going so early, because there was pretty good chance that he was going to get suspended. And then when he did, his price lowered. And then I was telling you guys, this is a buying opportunity now. Like, when he falls in drafts, maybe we take him here because in the 6th round, if he falls there,
got your 3 or 4 wide receivers already. He's gravy, which he wasn't. I remember you taking him too, Nelson. Late.
I took him in this. I talked about it earlier. I took him as my 4th wide receiver in the 6th round, and how do you pass up on him at that point?
Yeah, it's the same thing with Malik Neighbors this year. If Neighbors starts off on the PUP list, he's going to drop in drafts, and that might be an interesting situation to maybe like buy in on him on like tournament style teams where you have him for the second half of the season. Or
what receiver you like best, and that's on the Giants. I mean, Steve likes. I mean, is it Mooney?
I liked Mooney. I liked Mooney a while ago. The more I look at it, to be honest, I think it's going to be a little bit of a committee. With they brought in Beckham, they got Juju there, Slayton's there, Fields, the rookies there. It could be a little messy. Where I think likely the tight end might be the guy to own out of all of them, and Scatabo. I think he might be if he looks at. Listen, he's doing backflips at like celebrity softball games and stuff right now, so he looks pretty healthy. But let's see him cutting and in the preseason and looking good. If he looks good, I think they're going to be a run-heavy team, especially to start the year. So those are the 2 guys I would buy from the Giants. Mooney and all those receivers, though, go for free. If you want to speculate on a guy, there's nothing wrong with that.
If you catch lightning in the bottle, maybe the first 4 weeks, what have you, so be it. If not, it didn't cost you anything. You're right.
Yeah, I will say that for the most part, especially in NFFC, I want to be done with my wide receiver drafting by the top 12 rounds. I really don't want to be bargain shopping, in the 17th, 18th round for, my wide receiver 5, 6, maybe like I want to add a 7th wide receiver. I might take a stab on some young guy that, has some upside, not necessarily a role right now, but, things could happen and all of a sudden he's something. But otherwise, I'm usually done shopping at wide receiver pretty early. I want to get, 5 really good ones, solid ones that I can count on pretty early on.
Right. And you were also, I remember one draft you did. I mean, also Nelson, you went different early on. I think you took a McBride, or I know you got Lamar Jackson, but you were able to, it wasn't your normal build. I think you were, you basically prioritized a running back. You had McBride, but you made that team work. I remember you went, I don't know because of injuries. I don't think because of last year. I don't think because of injuries the team performed that well. But it was just you were doing something different, basically, where you were chasing. I think you had to catch up with the wide receivers for a change. Maybe 4, 5, 6 picks in the 6th round than your normal build.
You're saying last year?
Last year, yeah, it was last year.
Gotcha, yeah.
And I was like, it was live streamed too, and you made it work. Most people would panic because these guys aren't here. How am I going to do it? You made it work, and I don't think it panned out. If I remember, just because Lamar Jackson won, he was.
Yeah, I do want to on my live streams. I want to build different teams because
this was
everyone that's watching. It's like, oh, okay, this is a typical Nelson build. Pretty standard or whatever. So that's why, the other night with Maddie on. I think I might have gone Puka Bowers on the team, and that's not something I typically do in taking early tight end at NFFC, but I'm more open to it because I think Bowers he's got a path to having a Kelsey, Jimmy Graham type of year where he's just a monster, and then you have a huge edge. If you can make the rest of the team work.
Right. Most people would yeah, exactly. Most people sometimes would panic and just make mistakes. They would, you didn't do it that time. You you just made a team and, whatever reason it didn't work out because of injury or what have you. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. You're right. Well, I mean, you kind of really gave us bonus time, Nelson. We appreciate it.
3 hours. I'm looking at the clock right now.
I mean, that's why we got you. That's why we
are a marathon show.
15, 20 minutes. It seems like an hour, but he's just a quickie and he gets out of here.
Me and Steve D'Angelo did a 3 hour.
Steve G.
Oh, Steve G. Yeah. He was like, all right, I got to go take care of the dog and my wife is complaining. I got to go, guys.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
And Matt's great, too.
He said he was going to sleep, and I think he really did because that was the last thing I saw from him in the chat. He's
you got to get Matt for Fantasy Empire, which I told Joe. I said Fantasy Empire is 60 minutes of the fantasy shows. No question.
We'll make our rounds.
You got to get Matt a shirt that says Matt should get a shirt. It should be. I get him a sponsor too for me because that's what he for me. And then, but he's it's just a good. And you know what? We should have to get licensed and authorized. To use that line. That's just a classic.
Yeah.
But you get him a shirt and get some sponsors, man. You can monetize things. Tell him I'll help him. But he's got a sharp mind too. He's kind of a little like Steve. He picks up things that might especially when I listen to it, because he's got ADD, and that's great. He doesn't have it with Steve has. He's real sharp, but if you don't, some people might not understand. I pick up a lot of stuff because he's talking about, I made these props. I noticed this. He's got a prop, and he might bring up something he saw in a game that can really help you with a player, fantasy-wise.
Matt,
Yeah.
one thing about Matt is he's old school. He'll get the reason he'll back his argument with some old school shit. Like he's not gonna hammer you with metrics and numbers, and he's watches the games. He's got a good understanding of football, and that's what I take. That's what I take from Matt. He's
aggressive. He's old,
yeah.
but you got to really understand, because sometimes you might not. Certain people might not understand what he says because he can. But he brings up a lot of it. Stuff.
He's good.
Those insights.
Yeah.
If you pay attention.
Mhm.
That show's great. I think we go in withdrawal when you guys if you guys cancel, if you don't do it. I remember sometime we couldn't do it 1 week. I think it was one time. I think people go into withdrawal, Nelson.
Yeah.
We should be getting started soon, but we got to wait on Vaccaro. Vaccaro's on, in Europe. He's on vacation all the time, so we're waiting on him right now.
Yeah.
You
guys can't get it started without him. No, you have to have the whole.
Yeah, he's a key. He's a key.
I think we don't want to. It's a team, So
Gotcha.
He's great on the show. His classic line is, he'll talk and say, "Well, what do you got, Nelson? What do you got on that?" That's his line. It's a great show, and Dan's a great. You need Dan. He's the mellow guy. He's on the. He's a great moderator. Really,
Dan is one of the best podcasters there is.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, Dan's the relaxed one of the bunch. Us three, we're very opinionated, and we get pretty worked up, especially when we disagree with each other.
Yeah, just don't give us that. Yeah.
When one of you give away too much fab information, you start arguing with each other over that.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. All right. Well, Nelson, appreciate you spending 3 hours with us. This was a very fun show. A lot of good information. Anybody that listened definitely gained.
Best money spent of getting his high stakes package. You get the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. I was just
$2.99 with FTN, and like I said, they got some.
I thought it was $1.99. What's this $2.99?
No, $2.99. You get everything. You get the DFS. You get the betting. I don't use the betting, but there's a lot of good guys on there for DFS, especially. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I won some money with it.
I was just.
Nelson, I won a baseball thing for $2,000. A single entry baseball. I put it. It was an after I told Joe, and I got 0 points out of Buxton.
That was a few weeks ago.
And I won the whole thing.
Nice. Yeah. Listen, there's a lot of good stuff over at FTN. For DFS, and you got Jeff Ratcliffe with his rankings. He's proven over the years he's had really good success rate with
top
accuracy.
5. Yeah, he's top 5 the last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then if anyone's ever interested,
that's great for baseball.
Hit me up. We'll give you a little discount code, get you a little bit off.
And Nelson's going to send me a coffee mug, at least for Joey here. I'm going to get that.
Get you guys a coffee mug or something. Yeah.
It's good stuff. If you're playing high stakes, it's a must, in my opinion. So
nice. All right. Well,
all right,
Mike, and Joe, as always, appreciate you guys joining, helping out. Nelson, again, thank you. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Anyone listening, hit the like button, subscribe to the Sports Affiliation. We are approaching 1,000 subscribers as well. So anything helps there. I don't know. I got nothing else. Guys, I'm gonna go to bed like Steve.
All right. Time for bed.
All right,
Nice.
guys. Talk to you soon, Nelson. Thank you.
All right, guys. Good night, everybody. Good night.